Started. It is 6 o'clock, or maybe 2 or 3 after 6, so we're going to get started. We're going to ask that our City Councilman Waddell would open us up with prayer.
If you would please stand and bow your heads with me, please. Father God, we come before you this evening humbly as we look at our candidates for sheriff. We'd ask that you would just give us wisdom, impart us with knowledge, Father God, to ask the proper questions, Father God. Bring to us the truth, revelation, so that we can make a wise decision and be informed in terms of who you would have to lead us going forward, who would protect us going forward and act in this position, Father God. And ask that you would just be the bearer of truth that you are, Father God, in these times, in these moments where so much deception can take place, Father God. We just ask that your light shine here in this place and to help us to be wise in these moments, in these times, Father God. We'd ask your blessing on these proceedings, that there may be peace. In Jesus' name, amen.
We want to welcome all of you here today. This is the Garfield County Sheriff's Candidates Forum. The intent of the forum is to provide the public an opportunity to learn about, could you grab these cards? Sorry about that. To learn about our candidates. So we're here to learn about our candidates, their views, their issues, and to get the questions and answers that are concerning us in this community. The audience members will be allowed the opportunity to submit questions. If you have not done that, please submit those questions to us. You can put your name on it if you'd like to be recognized. If not, you do not have to put your name on those questions. Questions should be based on relevant issues and must be applicable to all candidates. These questions have to be for all candidates. To preserve the neutrality of the forum, no candidates literature or campaign material will be allowed inside this event. Campaign material will be available after the event. My name is Barry Robinson, Pastor Barry Robinson. I will be your moderator for this evening. Before we get started with the introduction of our candidates, we're going to ask the president of the NAACP to just come to us and give us some information.
Thank you all for being here on tonight. It's a privilege to have our candidates here, and it's wonderful, and we're thankful to the City of Enid for allowing us to have this forum, because one thing that we know, that everything that's going on in the city, not only in the city but in the nation and across the world, policing is very important. And I wanted to give you just a little background on the NAACP. Was founded February 12th, 1909, and it is the nation's foremost, largest, and most widely recognized civil rights organization. It's more than 500,000 members and supporters throughout the United States and the world are the premier advocates for civil rights in their communities, leading grassroots campaigns for equal opportunity and conducting voter mobilization. The founding group in 1909 was based in the city of Springfield due to a deadly race riot. Eruptions of anti-Black violence, particularly lynching, were horrifically commonplace. We know that there was a song written many years ago called it Strange Fruit. And it's amazing, in 2020, we're still having lynchings. We're still talking about it in the legislative process. No one should have to be murdered through the process of, no one should be murdered, period, but through the process of lynching, hanging on a tree as strange fruit. This Springfield riot was the final tipping point that led to the creation of the NAACP. Appalled at this rampant violence, a group of white liberals that included Mary White Ovington, Oswald Garrison Villett, William English Walling, and Dr. Henry issued a call for a meeting to discuss racial justice. Some 60 people, only 7 of whom were African American. So we invite everyone who would like to be a part of this civil rights organization to feel free to answer the call. Equal justice for all. We know that when we think about the Pledge of Allegiance, we're supposed to be indivisible, undivided. We're a united nation brought together for peace, love, and unity. The NAACP aim to secure for all people the rights guaranteed in the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the United States Constitution. Accordingly, the NAACP citizens of the United States and eliminate racial prejudice. The NAACP seeks to remove all barriers of racial discrimination through the democratic process. So that was a little bit of the history. And this is so important in light of everything that's going on in the nation again. And just to let you all know that we have, as local and Garfield County NAACP, we have been attending criminal justice reform meetings for the past year. We have seen remarkable changes within the jail system here in Enid, Oklahoma. And Garfield County. So we're looking forward to candidates to just hear policies and hear what the citizens of county, the concerns that they may have for this society that we live in today. I'm going to turn it back in the hands of our moderator. If you have any questions or would like to pose a question, there are cards that are in the back and we will bring them forward so that you have time to answer the questions.
Thank you, Madam President. Once again, I'm going to go over how we're going to do this forum, so I won't go ahead and we're going to have each candidate introduce themselves, about a minute and 30-second introduction, and then we're going to the question answer portion, which I will ask each candidate the question, and you will have the opportunity to respond to those questions. And once we get through, I have asked the candidates to just give a closing remark. But before we start, I want to thank all of you gentlemen. Let's give them a hand. Give them a hand. They did just for coming out and giving us their time. So we thank you guys for coming out. So right now we're going to ask Jody Helm to just come on and give us a little bit about yourself.
Right here? Okay.
You can sit, stand, it's fine. You got a mic there.
All right. My name's Jody Helm. I am the current sheriff right now. I've been married for 29 years.
Can everybody hear that?
I've been married for 29 years. Is that better? To my wife, Teresa, and I've got 3 children. Since this will be quick, I started in 2007, and I'm where I'm at right now. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Helm. Now we'll ask Daryl Momsen.
I'm Daryl Momsen, candidate for Garfield County Sheriff. I am an Enid native, raised on the east side of Enid. I'm very proud of my community. I've been with the Sheriff's Department since 2012, and I've served in every capacity except for K-9 and obviously administrator. I take great pride in my service. I am the only candidate that holds that administrative degree in criminal justice, and I serve the people diligently and aggressively. I'm here to serve the people, and you guys deserve a sheriff that will work hard for you. I'm here with my wife, Brittany, and my daughter, Gabrielle. My family and I attend church, and our daughter is in 7th grade at Drummond Public Schools.
Mr. Rinks.
Hello, my name is Corey Rink. I'd like to introduce my wife, Ashley, and my mom and dad, Gary and Paulette. I really appreciate everybody being here. I currently work for the Noble County Sheriff's Office, and as working as a deputy for the Noble County Sheriff's Office, I learned the true values of being a sheriff. And as your next sheriff, I want the citizens of Garfield County to know that I want to put as a priority. I want to make sure that the health and safety of the inmates, as well as the training of employees, is a must. I want to implement a school resource officer for our schools. I believe that our school resource officer talking to kids about drugs and alcohol abuse, talking to kids about internet sex crimes is a must. Internet sex crimes, including child happening in our world today, and that needs to stop. I want to close the drug houses in Garfield County. The meth abuse in Garfield County needs to stop. Solving our drug issues is also going to help solve burglaries, larcenies, and trafficking. As sheriff, I want to implement an environmental deputy. Implementing an environmental deputy will help stop our trash dumping in Garfield County. That's the main job of the environmental deputies, go out and investigate these crimes. And if we put a stop to that issue right there, stop the chemicals and the waste from getting into our water supply. That's not just hurting us, but it's also hurting agriculture and industry. Also, be transparent with your tax dollars. I want to be transparent with the public. I want the citizens to know that they're there for them. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Corey Rink, and I am running for sheriff of Garfield County. And I humbly ask for your support on June 30th. Thank you.
Wonderful. We want to thank all the candidates. And with that state testimonial, I want to start the first question off with you, Mr. Rinks. The question I thought was a very good question is, how do you plan to be more interactive with children in our schools and our communities?
Yes, sir. With my idea of implementing a school resource officer throughout the county, it's going to take 0 tax dollars to implement this program. We're paying our salary now as it is. I want to be in the community. We need to talk to our children, the adults, the schools, and churches about these crimes going on the internet today. These are big issues throughout Garfield County, but also throughout the world. When you have people, individuals, coming to Garfield County, Oklahoma, and preying on our children, I'm sorry, I'm not for that. I want to be involved with the community. I want to see our deputies at sporting events. I want to see them interact in churches. I want you all to know that my name is Corey Rink, and I am a sheriff for the people. Thank you.
Wonderful. Mr. Momsen, do you need me to repeat the question, or you have?
Yes, go ahead, please.
The question was dealing with how you were going to communicate and how you want to work with the children of this community. What are some things that you have, some plans that you have to work with the children of this community?
That question is very simple for me because for the last 6 years I was assigned to patrol, and I was also the contract chief of police for the town of Drummond, and I did that every single day of my career. I take pride in that as a member of the Garfield County Care Campus, someone that partners with child abuse, child neglect, child sex cases. I take great pride in all that action. So what I will do is I'll implement all that, teach it to all of our patrol deputies, and let them know that we need to integrate all those services into the community, just as I have done for the town of Drummond. If you all follow social media, you'll see that I have great endorsements from the chief financial officer from Drummond Public Schools, the town clerk in Drummond. They all can testify about my interactions and my involvement in the community, and also giving back to our children and be involved there. Children need to know that there are resources available, and we need to take those into the sheriff's office and show all of our deputies that they're there. How we do that is partnering with nonprofit agencies here in Enid, letting the families and the parents know that those agencies are available. If there's trauma that a child has suffered through domestic violence within their family or their home, there's resources available. But you have to be a leader, you have to be a sheriff that knows those exist, and you have to be someone that takes part in that. I've done that. That's my everyday history. That's how I've acted. That's how I've done. Just in the last 6 years that I was assigned to patrol as the chief of police for the town of Drummond, those are normal, everyday business techniques that I conduct and that I've done for the last 6 years. Teaching those to all of our patrol deputies so that they can put them to work on their 11-hour shifts is the best way to connect with the children of our community, school personnel, and the parents and the public all together.
Very good, very good. Mr. Hamlin, would you like me to repeat the question, or do you got it?
I'm good, thank you.
All right.
We're going to continue doing what we're doing with deputies walking through the schools, deputies showing up for the ball games and stuff like, or any kind of event for the schools. It comes down to manpower. So Sometimes the deputies have the time to do this. Sometimes the deputies have to take care of criminal actions. But we've been doing this. Most of the deputies are really good at stopping in and doing walkthroughs for the football games, doing walkthroughs for the basketball games, and just talking to the kids. I think we're doing a pretty good job. I'd like to get more manpower so we could do a better job, but we make do with what we have.
All right, this next question we're going to start with Mr. Momsen. How will you ensure the sheriff's office is transparent?
Transparency is a big deal. My entire campaign, I've been talking about being transparent with your tax dollars, being transparent what's going on in the sheriff's office, being transparent with what's going on with crime in our agency. The only way to do that is to be involved and get out there and tell the people what's going on. You as a taxpayer deserve that. You should know whenever there's a large string of burglaries out in Fairmont. You should know when the sheriff's office is looking for a certain vehicle that's involved in a burglary. You should know whenever we've identified a suspect on video, it should be pushed out to the public so the general public has knowledge of what we're looking for. You should know where your tax dollars are being spent. You should know that the sheriff's office spent $89,000 on body cameras. There's no policy and procedure right now that holds any teeth into that policy and procedures. They are not being used. They're not broken. I never once said that the cameras aren't broken. What I'm telling you folks is that $89,000 was spent on body cameras. There's no system accessible for all the deputies. There are deputies that work for this every day that can't go into the computer system, check out a camera because the system isn't broken. It's not broken. It's not functioning correctly as it should be. That's transparency. You all should know what's going on within our department. You should know where your tax dollars are being spent. You should know when the deputies are out working crimes and what kind of area of crime they're looking at. That's being transparent. The public needs to know, and they deserve to know, what's going on in the four walls of the sheriff's office. That's the main priority.
Wonderful. Mr. Helm?
We try to be as transparent as we can. I'm not the guru for that. I've got some younger guys that are going to start putting this out. I've also got a website that we're fixing to push out that will also tie the jail to the sheriff's office, so you'll be able to look on there and see if your loved ones are in there. My door's open. I invite anybody from NAACP to any other organization to come in and visit. We try to be transparent, or we are transparent when it comes to the jail, when it comes to the sheriff's office. If you're interested, let me know, and we'll visit about it. Any organization at all.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mr. Rink?
Yes, transparency. I want to be transparent. I want to be open. I want to be resourceful. That's what what transparency is. Being open to the public, letting them know that what are the issues going on in Garfield County today, and how are we going to solve those issues. I want to start a neighborhood watch program, which would be zero cost to taxpayers' dollars. That's a deputy just getting out and hitting meetings, going to meetings and talking to folks such as yourself, just like we are doing right here today, and letting you, the citizens, know what is going on throughout the county. If you live in Lahoma, I want you to know that we're having issues over there, and I want you to know how we're going to take care of those issues. I want to be transparent about your tax dollars. As a certified fire chief and a certified police chief, and in my career, I feel like I've been very conservative with your tax dollars. When I was fire chief, we was bidding on a fire truck. We went out for bids, and it was nearly $160,000 for a fire truck. And I took it back to my department, and we pieced each little piece of equipment out down to the chassis. And we bought things locally, right here in Enid, Oklahoma. We supported our home, we supported our business right here in Enid, Oklahoma. And we saved nearly $20,000 doing that. That's what I want to bring to the sheriff's office. I want to save your tax dollars. We should get out, we should bid on things, and make sure that they're going to work for us. Thank you.
Thank you. For this question, we're gonna go back to Mr. Helm. Whoever wrote these questions are really informed. This question, we'll start with you, Mr. Helm. It says, there was recently a purchase at the Sheriff's Office of body cams, costing the taxpayers $89,000. Was this really the best deal available? And how do you all plan on being responsible for taxpayers' dollars? Was this the best deal available on those cams?
Right, right. We go out for bids, but before we do the bids, we have them ship us these cameras so we can test them. We tested the body cams that we went with probably 3-4 months before we decided to go with those. And yeah, there was little glitches when you do a new system. And right now we are in the process of getting the policies and procedures in place, because right now they're sitting at the DA's office waiting to get approved. And that goes back to the company we went with to do the policies. So that way we have a living document. Was it the best buy? I think so. I think the quality's there. I think the equipment's there. The service is there. And yeah, we did have some glitches, but we've got those worked out. We had some computers that weren't downloading to the Z drive like they were supposed to. That's been fixed. Now we can carry on and do what we need to do. The deal is, when it comes to these cameras, the deputy is responsible for the equipment in his car. He has to make sure it works. If it doesn't work, he needs to tell somebody. If he doesn't get no satisfaction, he needs to come to me so we can get stuff done. And that didn't happen. So yeah, I'm waiting on my policies, and we will have something that has been vetted and the DA's office is checked into for these cameras to make sure they're done like they're supposed to be done. And we will back that up with any kind of discipline necessary if they don't do it.
The second part of that is probably dealing with transparency. It's asking you, how do you plan on being responsible for taxpayers' dollars? How do you plan on being responsible
How do I plan on being responsible?
for our dollars?
When I do a budget, this will be my third one coming up, I don't do the dream budget. I do what we have to have. I'd look at everything we need. If we need vehicles, if we need any kind of equipment, that's what I look at. I don't go for anything that's extreme. And then later on, if we need to go that route, then I'll visit with the commissioners and we'll see if we're on the same page, and that's what we'll buy. But my budget is usually down to the bare minimum. And right now, all I'm concentrating on is getting vehicles. We ordered 3 last year. They're still not ready yet because of COVID. And I know that we're going to need 3 more, and we're going to try to get 3 every year. That's the way we need to keep my guys on patrol and keep them out there and doing their jobs. I'm being as diligent as I can. Like I said, it's bare bones. The second part of this is every budget goes to a Class A meeting. And every Class A officer, which is an elected officer, we go through everybody's budget. It doesn't matter what department, my department, treasurer's department, it doesn't matter. And it gets picked apart. And you explain every little thing you do. And they'll call you on the carpet on it, and you better have an answer. And the goal for the county as a whole is to only do what we need to do. It's not extravagant, and I want an airplane or anything like that. It's the bare bones, what we need to do to keep everything going. And then after that, if you come across something you need, it goes to the commissioners meeting, it's talked about. I'm not the only one who makes the decision, so now you have 3 more people. And then make sure that I do it right, and I did it lawfully, I did my bids, and everything is legal. And then that's how we do that.
Can everybody hear Mr. Helm okay out there? You guys can hear him pretty good? Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Helm. We want to continue on. Right now, we want to bring this same question to Mr. Rink. Do you need me to repeat it? Not a problem. Not a problem. There was recently a purchase at the sheriff's office for body cams costing taxpayers $89,000. Was this really the best deal? Question 1. Was this really the best deal available? And how do you plan on being responsible for taxpayers' dollars?
$89,000, that's quite a bit of money. When I was the police chief for the town of Covington, I purchased body cameras, and I purchased an in-car camera system. The body cameras cost me $250 a piece, and the in-car camera system was $850. So I felt like I chose wisely. It was good equipment. You know, it's not fancy equipment. I don't believe that we need fancy equipment out there. That's something that you have to Bluetooth to a computer to download to a system. If you can't trust your employees to come back to the office every night and download that camera to that system, then why are they working for us? Sorry, I'm just being real here. You need to trust your employees to come and do their job and what they're supposed to be doing. So, I feel like I said, the $850 and the $250 for a body cam, you're looking at, $1,100 right there. If you needed 15 cameras, you're looking at, what, $17,000? So, anyway, and then being responsible with the taxpayers' money,
Yes, sir.
it's, goes back to you need to do your research, making sure that we're getting the best equipment for our buck, and which I felt like with my cameras that I bought was very good equipment. So, yeah. Anyway, did I answer everything?
Yes.
Both parts? Okay.
Yes. Mr. Momsen, the question to you, do you need me to read the question again?
Yes, if you would, please.
Not a problem. There was recently a purchase at the sheriff's office for body cams costing the taxpayers $89,000. Was this really the best deal? That's the first part. The second part is, how do you plan to be responsible with the taxpayers' dollars?
I'd like to start by saying 2018. That is the year and the date of the purchase order in Lori Laguerre's office at the county clerk's office. She's sitting in the back. Hold us accountable, folks. Go speak with her. Ask her to see that PO. Ask her to see the other bids for those body cameras. Make your decision then. Was it a wise purchase? In my opinion, I don't think it was. I've networked and talked to other chiefs of police in our county, other jurisdictions of law enforcement here. I don't believe that was the best purchase for that amount for what we need to do with it. I'll echo the fact what Corey Rink said, that if the employees aren't trusted to come in and download those cameras like it should be, then there is a trust issue, and why are they working? That's a good point. But also I want to touch on the insurance companies. A lot of insurance companies will give law enforcement agencies grant money. All they have to do is show them a policy and procedure that's in place, and they will give them grant money for those. I don't know if that avenue was visited or not. I wasn't in a position of administration. Also, Sheriff Helm touched on Class A officers going over budget. That's no different than your boss right now at your place of employment determining your salary and your wages and telling you this is what you get paid. What do? You go home with your wife, your spouse, your husband, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, and sit down and say, we have X amount of dollars. We have to stretch those dollars and do everything that we possibly can with all the money that they give us, as much as we can. And that's what I would do as your sheriff. Regardless of the money that they give us, regardless if the money is lower or higher or in the middle, regardless of what they give us, I will sit down with our department and see what we need to do to put public safety first, and then I will make sure that we stretch those. In 2008, when I started, we have more deputies right now than we've ever had on the payroll. We have the manpower, we have the staff. We have to stretch those out, sit down, reconfigure our options, and say, hey, we can do more with what the commissioners, the Class A officers set aside. But I'll close with this. Go by, check those purchase orders. Go by and look for those bids. Open records. Go by and check with Lori Laguerre. She's back there in the back. Let her know you want to see those bids. You want to see what the sheriff's office proposed. Do everything you possibly can with the money that the county has given you, is my answer to being transparent.
Thank you so much. This next question is from Ben Crooks. It says, as a candidate for sheriff, would you each give your opinion of an understanding of the criminal justice authority, the jail trust, and the role the sheriffs will have in the operation of the detention center? Read again. We'll start with you. Yeah, we'll start with you.
Yes, with the jail board, Mr. Crooks. If elected sheriff, I do want to work with you as sheriff and as jail administrator. And currently, right now, and my understanding is that the sheriff is still ultimately the ultimate control of the jail. That is slowly changing over to where we'll have the jail board fully running the operation. Am I correct? So, as sheriff, I want to make sure today, because the issues are going on today, that we don't have another loss of life in our detention facility. And I know you weren't there for those years of it, but it was pretty bad in there. And so, until we get that fully operation, where the jail board will have the control of the jail, you know, we're going to have to keep going right now with the sheriff. I mean, and we've got to get that transferred over. I know in Title 57, which is the jails, the sheriff, it says, and now I don't know, do you know what trust that we're actually trying to get this over into? Is it the 57 or is it Title 60? 60? 57? Under Title 57, the state of Oklahoma on law says that the sheriff shall be the president, basically, the chairman of the board. And so with that still being said, the sheriff will still have the ultimate responsibility, and then, of course, working with the jail administrator on any issues. So I hope I answered that question.
Sounds good to me.
That's a long question.
Mr. Momsen?
The Jail Trust Authority or the Criminal Justice Authority is a panel of 5 people. The sheriff, the chairman of the county commissioners, an attorney, or 3 citizens, an attorney right now, David Henneke, and then there's Anthony Clardy and Larry Rutherford. The job of that trust authority is to oversee the management capabilities or whatever the jail administrator is doing. Benjamin Crooks is now the jail administrator. That trust authority is responsible for hiring that person. They act as a facility manager. They run the daily operations, the purchasing, the scheduling, the ordering, all of the staffing issues, everything, the training, ultimately will be the responsibility of the jail administrator. That trust authority will oversee that and make sure that he's doing his job. I've spoken to Mr. Crooks. I've attended the jail trust authority meetings. He is very qualified for this position. Excellent, excellent pick. As a sheriff, you have to have the understanding, the responsibility. I have the education. I can be an advocate on that board and make sure that we're moving in a direction positively. Like Mr. Rink said, the sheriff will have a primary seat on there. That's what will go in effect. But ultimately, what we need to do is sit back and make sure that the jail administrator is operating that facility by Oklahoma jail standards, Oklahoma state statute, and federal guidelines. That's the job of the trust authority. It's a great move for the sheriff's department and for the county jail. I actually ran for county commissioner. I have no experience whatsoever to operate a bulldozer or any kind of heavy equipment, but I have law enforcement experience. And after the death of Mr. Huff, I said, we need a change. I stepped out and said, I can offer that. I have law enforcement. I have a college degree with a focus on corrections. I can bring that. So I stepped out and said, I'll try to make a difference and be a county commissioner solely to make a difference for the Jail Trust Authority. We've moved in the positive direction. We've got that now. So as sheriff, all I can do is be a proactive member of that and bring experience and dedication to that board and advocate for the good changes there. But solely the operations and daily responsibility will rely in Mr. Crook's hands.
Thank you. Mr. Helm?
That is how the board is set up, the way Mr. Momsen said. You have the 5-panel, the chair, and the one in charge is going to be the commissioner, then the sheriff, and then you have your 3. Right now, the way it's set up, until we legally get this trust authority set up, is that the sheriff is still in charge. And myself and Ben, with the trust authority, have been coming up. We've been working to move the jail forward. Once we do the legal side of this, then yes, the trust will be in charge, and then we'll be over Mr. Crooks and guiding him, making sure he's crossing the T's, dotting the I's, doing his job like he's supposed to be within all the standards. But ultimately, it will be up to Mr. Crooks to make all the decisions when it comes to the jail. And we have, and Mr. Crooks has, brought this jail forward tremendously. He has, I'll give you an example. He has changed the jail on the way it's ran since I've started there, and since he's taken over. He's been here, what, you going 4 months? Yeah. So he's done a lot of changes in a short amount of time, and I expect a lot more to come. So what he did is our solitary confinement and also our suicide watches are all done in one pod. Usually we do indirect supervision, but Mr. Crooks made this a direct supervision. Smart move, because we did have a suicide attempt at the jail, and the jailer who checks on all these inmates in this pod caught it, and we saved a life because of that one change. So Mr. Crooks, I give him the credit, and also the detention officer the credit for making these changes, and it's going to save lives. It's going to help to make sure the inmates are safe, and with his policies and his direction and the way he's training these detention employees and stuff, we should never have another huff incident or anything else as long as it's on Ben's watch. The sheriff is still ultimately responsible, period, for the jail. Even with the trust, the sheriff's still ultimately responsible. So that's why I'll be making my stops. I still do. I come in, I see how things are running, I ask my questions, I'm out. If I have any issues, I go through Ben, because Ben's the one in control of everybody that's in that jail. He's got a system, he's working on it, and he's actually has the detention officers at a point to where they're really enjoying their job and being there with this new structure. So I think everybody's kind of touched on a lot of it. That is how it's set up, at least until we do the transition over. But the main authority of the employees, policies, and everything else will go through Ben Crooks. And we're just there as an oversight to the board to make sure everything is being done.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Momsen. Racial profiling is a problem in our society, in our city, Enid, in our county, Garfield County. What steps would you take to stop this racial profiling?
First and foremost, those body cameras have to be on. They have to be working. They have to be used. First step. That we have accountability. I'll echo Maria Eves. She's out there in the audience tonight. She said at the last town hall meeting, it's unfair for the person. It's unfair for the officer. We recently had an episode where a deputy was forced to resign or be terminated because an incident took place and his body camera was not on his body and the camera inside his vehicle was not working. The memory was full to capacity. It was behind a locked box. Supervisors only have access to that, not the deputy. That's the first step, is if we have the tools and we have something to keep us safe and to look out for both sides, the officer and the individual, that is the first step. The body cameras have to be on. They have to be working. They have to be utilized. 2, I talked to Mr. Mitchell about this during the hiring process. I got to be part of the team that interviews the new hires, do their background checks and look at it. When you're doing an employee interview and you go over their history, you get references. There's only so much. If you're a business owner in here, there's only so much that you can tell somebody calling for a reference check before it gets illegal. During that process, in a 45-minute to an hour interview, it is difficult, very difficult to tell whether someone has the innate human ability to be racist or to racial profile somebody. It's almost impossible. What you have to do as the agency head, the sheriff and the leader, you have to make sure that if you notice any of those behaviors at all in an individual, you recognize it, you deal with it right away. You don't hope that it flushes itself out. You don't set it to a side for it to be addressed at a later date. When you notice those characteristics, you deal with it right away, get rid of the problem, 0 tolerance. You have to be upfront and let them know it's not there. Other part of that is to be accountable and transparent with the public. Let them know that that is part of our department. Let them know that we had a bad apple and that it's been dealt with. The best way and the only way to deal with racial profiling is to recognize it, deal with it, get rid of it, and be transparent about it.
Thank you. Mr. Helm?
Repeat.
Racial profiling is a problem in our society, in our city, and in our county, Garfield County. How would you stop racial profiling?
How would I stop it? My deputies are pretty good about policing themselves, but I want to go back even farther, and I want to touch on a little bit what Mr. Momsen said. These cameras, yes, we could rely on the deputies to take their camera, walk it in there, stick it in the download, and download it. But right now, the way it's set up, as soon as they pull up, those cameras start downloading on their own. Not only do we have body cameras, but we have cameras inside the cars. Those are downloaded and cannot be touched by the deputy. They cannot be erased. They cannot do anything. They can't even be erased by me. They can't be altered. So there's the accountability there. If we see anything, or my deputies will tell me if they notice, because like he said, it's super hard to pull this out in an interview. If they had a test, man, I'd do it. I don't know if they're ever going to develop one. But we're not going to deal with them. They're going to be done. Racism's not going to fly here. They don't joke around in the bullpen, which is where we all meet and we do our stuff. We don't allow it, period. I think once we do this hiring process, like Mr. Momsen said, it's hard. How do you ask those questions? And they're just going to tell you what you want to know. But I think in a month or two, when they're in there, they're visiting they're starting to get used to everybody. Something's going to slip. And then we're going to get that, and we're going to know. And we're going to deal with it. It's not allowed. I won't tolerate it, period.
Thank you. Mr. Rink?
How I'm going to stop racial profiling. Well, I just want to give you a quick little tidbit here. Over at Noble County, I work with a gentleman who's African American. Recently, we was both involved in a traffic stop. It was a high-risk traffic stop. And he is a very, very good police officer. And he asked me, because of the race issues, he asked me to arrest our subject. Racial profiling, the racism throughout the world needs to stop today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Not tomorrow, but today. And you know, and after this traffic stop, I talked to Officer Ross about this issue some more. And I wanted his perspective of things. Being a black man wearing a star on his chest. And I learned quite a bit from Officer Ross on his perspective. And just like you said, these issues aren't just going on right here in Garfield County, but it's happening all over the world, and I want to stop it with diversity training. I want to bring training to our department right here in Garfield County, Oklahoma. I want to bring different cultures in. I don't care if it's the Marshallese, Asian, African American. I want to bring these folks in. I want to learn about their history. I want to learn about their society. And I want to stop it today. I want to stop racism today. In my department, I am not going to put up with racial profiling. I'm not going to put up with racism. And I want the citizens of Garfield County to know that I am here for everyone. I don't care how tall you are. I don't care how short you are. I don't care about your age. I want you to know that Corey Rink is there for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm not going to read. If a question is directed to an individual, I'm not going to use that question because we want to give all the candidates an opportunity to respond. So I'm not going to use questions specifically geared toward any specific candidate. The next question we'll start with Mr. Helm. The sheriff is the face of the department. What is your approach on communicating with the public? What is your approach on communicating with the public?
Wow, that's kind of broad. I'll answer it this way. I have no problem communicating with the public, period. My approach will be subtle, and I will just listen, and then we will, with dialogue, figure out the issue, and we'll solve it the best we can. And if this is going into something else, I'm not sure, but I would even say being transparent is part of that. My door's open, and you can call. I'll do any kind, like, it doesn't matter if it's NAACP, it doesn't matter what group it is. I don't have a problem coming out and answering questions.
Thank you so much. Mr. Momsen, the same question?
Can you
Read it
repeat
again. The sheriff is the face of the department. What is your approach to communicating with the public? What is your approach to communicating with the public?
My approach would be to be transparent, be accountable to the public. I would communicate via social media, Facebook, Twitter if we have to, whatever channel that we need to spread the word, the message, be on the lookouts, to look out for vehicles, whatever message we need to send, I would do whatever avenue possible. When it comes to citizens, I will do whatever's possible. If we need to email, if we need to make phone calls, if I need to Zoom, meet you, Skype you, I'll do that. You matter to me, your voice, your opinion matters to me, and I will take every effort to return phone calls to the public when those pages are sent out, and I'll make every effort to respond to you in a very, very timely manner. Even if it's saying, hey, I'm extremely busy and I have X, Y, and Z going on, I will get back to you. I will touch bases with you and let you know that I've got your message. You're important to me, you matter to me, and I will be transparent and I will get right back to you. Not returning phone calls, not responding to Facebook messages is not the world and society that we live in.
Thank you so much. Mr. Rink?
Yes. To communicate with the public. Being the face of the sheriff's office, the sheriff should be getting out there, talking to folks, letting folks know about the issues. And that's why I want to implement a neighborhood watch program throughout Garfield County in every community. It's a volunteer program, costs the taxpayer $0. It's just getting out and letting people know what issues we are facing today. I also want to communicate with the citizens of Garfield County through my school resource officer program. The teenage children, the adults, parents, grandparents, getting out there, getting involved in the community, letting the citizens know that the sheriff is there for them. Also want to communicate with the citizens of Garfield County through news outlets such as Enid News and Eagle, The Buzz, social media, Facebook. The citizens need to be aware of the issues that are going on throughout their area, and I want to be there for the citizens of Garfield County. Thank you.
Wonderful. We have a lot of questions dealing with the body cams. I'm pretty sure they pretty much covered all of these questions. I read them. They pretty much covered all those issues with the body cams. So I've read a couple of, so we're not going to go into the body cam questions anymore. So hopefully they answered your question. Most of that I read, they are answering the questions. The next question, we'll start off again with Mr. Rink. What does the reserve deputies, and I thought this was a good question, what does the reserve deputies help with now? And how will you move forward with them once you are sheriff? Once you're sheriff, how are you going to move forward with reserve deputies?
Our reserve deputies throughout Garfield County is very, very vital to all of us. We need to have our reserve deputies to help make this program work. Reserve deputies are made up of volunteers, just like volunteer firemen, who get out there and donate their time to protect the citizens of Garfield County. I want to expand our reserve program. I would like to see a few more reserve deputies working on the streets, helping our full-time staff, doing school walkthroughs, showing up to ball games, sporting events, community functions throughout the county. I believe that our reserve officers can help us just as much as we can help them by supporting your reserve officers. Make sure that the citizens, when we get out there, I want the citizens to know that we have a reserve out there at our school, and they should be proud that someone is willing to volunteer their time to protect us, to protect all of us. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir, so much. Mr. Momsen?
Just like Corey Rink said, these reserve deputies are volunteers. Myself, Corey Rink, and Sheriff Helm have all served as a reserve deputy. That's an individual that volunteers their time unpaid to do the same duties as the paid full-time deputies. We do need more deputies. We need those individuals that want to give back and serve their community, that take great pride in that, and that are willing to come out and serve with us. Those deputies can be used for hospital duty, to watch inmates when they're in the hospital. They can be used as security for ball games, sporting events. They can be used for patrol. They can be used for every duty that a full-time deputy does whenever we're shorthanded. They can go in and work dispatch. At one time, they could go in and work at the detention facility. I don't know how Benjamin Crooks feels about that, but they were utilized at that department. A reserve deputy can help us bring services to the public. It's very important. It takes a great individual to do that. They have to be ready to make a change and to be dedicated to public service. It's a good department. If you know anyone that's interested in serving, or you yourself would like to, I challenge you to come check it out and do a ride-along, because it's a great program to find out if you want to be in law enforcement full-time. But those reserve deputies, their service goes unmatchable.
Mr. Helm?
Yeah, reserve deputies are critical. They help support us, especially when you got people on vacation, you got sick times going on and all that. They do come in and they are volunteer. They are an awesome group. The problem is getting them new deputies in. A lot of deputies move on, the reserves. Getting the new ones in and getting them trained So you got your full-time job, and then you're doing this training on the side, and they've expanded the hours of training. So you got to really find that person that's really committed to do this training, and then committed to do the training to transition as a deputy. And that's been harder and harder. We've seen our reserve programs shrink because of this. Also, I haven't got to it yet, but I am revamping the reserve program to, it needs to be better than what it was. I don't like the way it is, but I've been doing all these foundational things on getting the sheriff's department up and running that it is on my list. But it needs to be better. They need to know exactly where they stand, and policies do address this, but it's not enough. To get these people in, to get the structure going, to get the training revamped so they can get up to speed and be just as valuable as a full-time deputy and stuff. But the training and what CLEAT and the state has implemented, it has made it harder. So that special person to come up and do this training, that's what we need. But it is very important.
How does one become a volunteer deputy? What do you have to do to become a volunteer deputy?
For one, you're going to have to, you go through an academy. It's a full-time academy, condensed, and I think now it's
360 hours. Isn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
How many hours?
I believe it's 360 hours. if I
Yeah,
remember
so
right.
you're doing, it used to be Tuesdays, Thursdays, and then you'll do some of your stuff on Saturdays. Well, that's in the evening, and that's if you're lucky to find academy here.
Wow.
And we have been putting academies on, but I postponed that because I want our foundation to be restructured and better. But I had to take my academy. I think I went to Fairview. I don't know where you went.
I went here and
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's dedication, because you got to be there at a certain time. You're there for 4 hours, and then you got to drive all the way back. You have testing. You have everything a full-time does. It's just condensed.
If I can add to that, Mr.
Yes,
Robinson.
go ahead.
The neat thing about that is while you're a reserve deputy, you get to learn everything a full-time deputy does. You get to ride along and go on transports to the prison to drop prisoners off, or to do hospital transports, or to go out on patrol. If you do a special emphasis patrol, you get to learn all those things. So it's a neat thing to do.
Yeah.
And you could do that while you're in the academy. There's just certain restrictions. You won't be able to carry a weapon until you go through the firearms portion. There's some other things, but as you go through and progress our blocks or go through your academy, then you can learn to do more and to do carry more tools per se. But the whole time, if you come in as a reserve deputy, you get to get your feet wet, and get in the ground, and get in there and to learn. It's kind of like a cadet setting.
Very interesting. Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Helm. This is a good question to start off here. What steps will you take to discipline deputies alleged or found guilty of excessive use of force? And I think you talked a little bit about that earlier, but can you just go into that a little bit?
What steps would I take? For one, I'm going to start a full-blown investigation. We're going to go over all the camera footage, not only on the body cams, the in-car cams, whatever cameras that are in the area. We're going to canvass, and we're going to find all those. We're going to bring that video in, and I will have a board that just focuses on that. Now, if it's deemed to be excessive, yes, they will be disciplined, and charges will be sent up to the DA's office. The totality of everything, that's exactly what we'll do. To go on even farther, I've been watching these other states and what they're implementing, so I can get an idea of what's coming. I agree with some of these states. We don't use them right now, but it's not in a policy. We're going to ban the chokeholds. We're going to ban the I don't even remember what it's called, but we call it LVNR, to where you do the vascular restraints. We're going to do stuff like, we're going to implement those. Also, I've noticed some trends coming down that I really like too, and just like you've seen when Mr. George, he had the knee on his neck. Well, you got 3, 4 officers sitting there and they're not doing anything. Yeah, no. So in the policy, you're going to get nailed for that. You're going to be the one that stops excessive force, or you will go down with that person. That's stuff I plan on doing.
Thank you. Mr. Momsen.
Again, accountability and things, I go back to that. The first deal is you have to identify who's involved with it, put them on administrative leave, and then conduct your investigation. Like Sheriff Helm said, you look at the video, all the video, witness statements, you do a complete investigation. I echo the fact of him saying a board to review that, but also an idea of mine, if I'm elected sheriff, I would like that review board to consist of citizens out of the public, not just employees of our department. I would like a fresh new set of eyes and a fresh, new perspective to come in and say, this is what I see, because a lot of times law enforcement can see it all the same or close to the same. Also, it doesn't look good to the public if we have our officers and our department and our people reviewing all of that. So I think if I could get something together where the citizens can be involved on that board, kind of like a civil service commission board that the Enid Police Department has, but with technicalities and things with insurance companies and laws, there'll be differences, but it's not impossible. But get those people involved. That way there's a neutral person not involved. The other key factor to that is, you refer to the district attorney's office and see if there's any criminal element where they can prosecute. That doesn't stop there, though. If the DA's office tells me they're not going to prosecute, but the actions of that employee doesn't sit well with me, I don't take the DA's word for that. I go by what I say because I'm the agency head. I go with what our review team has said. Just because they didn't fall under those guidelines where they need to be charged with the crime, be prosecuted, and then start the criminal justice system, they still need to be held accountable. And if it don't sit well with my leadership, we're not going to go by that. So I just think that opening up to that community involvement, outsiders to come on there. And then the last thing I'd like to add, and I just see if I myself was a victim, what I would want. And the last thing is to communicate with the victim, whoever the alleged victim is that reported any kind of crime, keep them up to date, let them know the process. You don't have to tell them every aspect of your investigation, but let them know, hey, your complaint matters, I'm taking you very seriously, this is where we're at. And ultimately, what I think also is important, that when you come down to the resolution or decision of finality, owe it to the victim and the family or whoever's on the other side of that. Let them know ahead of time what's going to happen. Let them know. Give them the opportunity. Does this sit well with you? End things on a partnership and let them know you matter. We don't have a policy for this, but we're going to update that. Or we do have a policy, it wasn't followed, and we're going to take action on that. Communicate completely across the board and with the public.
Thank you. Mr. Rinks, want to read the question again?
Yes, please.
No, not a problem. What steps will you take to discipline deputies alleged or found guilty of excessive use of force?
Well, first off, I want to say that I believe that the citizens, not just in Garfield County, but throughout the state of Oklahoma, should be proud of their law enforcement. I believe that we have a great training program at CLEAT, in which at CLEAT we teach the use of force. And so we have to make sure that we are properly training our deputies, our employees, the use of force every day. It needs to be every day. We need to talk about it every day. In Oklahoma, we have laws that if an officer uses excessive force, they have to report that within a certain amount of time period. And so going back to what would I do if one is accused, of course, we need to make sure that we are following our policy and procedure. We need to make sure that it's up to date and it's clear exactly what we're going to do. We may need to take the employee off the street for a couple days while we complete an investigation until we find an outcome of the said use of force. We also need to make sure that we talk to our victim about the issue. We need a full investigation. And that victim needs to know what their sheriff is going to do for them and how he's going to investigate it and why he's investigating it. And keeping that victim up to date every step of the way, whether that officer is found guilty or not, we need to make sure that we just keep our victims up to date. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Momsen, we'll start with you on this one here. In light of everything that's going on, this is a good question. One wrong turn from a citizen could turn into death sentence when a deputy becomes judge, jury, and executor. What can we do to prevent a citizen from being murdered by a deputy with excessive use of force? And I would like to kind of rephrase that, because I think we as citizens need to know what we need to do when pulled over, when we have been pulled over. What are some advice that you would give us to make sure that this doesn't happen to any of us as citizens? Mr. Momsen.
I'll give you the same advice that I give my friends. My nephew, who is African American, who is now driving, I'll give you that same advice. Whatever happens on a traffic stop with the officer, be compliant. Follow their order, follow their direction, do exactly what they ask. At the traffic stop, that is not a time to argue whether it's right or wrong. Hopefully, that department has policy and procedures, they have body cameras, they have measures in place that after the stop is done and completed and everyone leaves there alive and safe, you can begin the appropriate action. And that's to go in and file a formal complaint and let an investigation ensue. So my advice is this: when you come in contact with any law enforcement officer, whether they're rude, they're treating you badly, whether they think that they're your boss, be compliant with them. Give them what they ask for, do what they ask for. If they did any wrong, follow that formal complaint and start that procedure. If you're in a vehicle and you get pulled over, I myself do this. Leave your hands on the steering wheel, let them come up and greet you. Then tell them, my wallet's in my pocket, my insurance verification is in my glove box. If you're like me, sometimes my wallet's in my wife's purse. Let her reach down, tell them, she's gonna get my wallet, I'll give you the items that you need. Keep that person, if you communicate with them calmly and let the officer know what your intentions are, a lot of things can go a lot smoother. But that isn't always the case, depending on the officer. I can't sit here today and answer this question for every single officer. But I can tell you, be compliant, do what they ask you to, and I encourage you, I said it many, many times through my campaign and tonight, accountability. If you are done wrong on a traffic stop and you feel in your gut that something was done and it did not sit well with you, go to that agency, get with the agency head, file a formal complaint, and request an investigation be done. That's my advice.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mr. Helm?
Repeat that real quick. Repeat.
Read it once more time. One wrong turn for a citizen could turn into a death sentence when a deputy becomes the judge, juror, and executioner. What can we do as citizens? What can we do to prevent this from being a murder by a deputy with excessive use of force? What can we do as citizens to
Mr.
prevent
Momsen
this?
covered that pretty good. Be compliant, be polite, look, see what their names are, get their badge number. I don't know how many complaints that I've researched and looked on cameras and between the jail and the sheriff's office. I don't even know how many, 10, 15, 20, give or take, since I've started. Been in charge for the last couple of years. We look at those. A lot of them can be solved by just looking at the camera. Sometimes we're going to have you come in and re-interview. But to answer the question is, be compliant. Take your fight up with either the department or with the DA or with an attorney, but not on the street. The street's not the place to do that. And that'd be my best.
Good answer. Mr. Rink?
When we're out here every day, we deal with a lot of people, different types of people, different cultures, and people do different things every day. Sometimes when you make a traffic stop, that person may be very, very nervous. And there's no doubt that each law enforcement officer across the state and across this county, when we make a traffic stop, we don't know who we're dealing with. I don't know that it could be my wife in that vehicle. Obviously, I know her vehicle, but I don't know who that person is on average. Although Garfield County is it's a large county, but it's small in the same sentence. Everybody knows everybody, right? But when we're out here and we don't know who you are, and the situations that we have dealt with in our career, guns, drugs. You see videos and, we'll say cops on TV. As the suspect gets out of the vehicle, when you pull him over and he gets out of the vehicle, people can move pretty fast. The average person can move 27 feet in 3.5 seconds. That's pretty quick. And so by the time you react to a situation, you could have already been injured. And so that's why we always ask that the citizens making a traffic stop, or we may be at a residence for a domestic call, a burglary in progress, is that we ask each and every citizen to comply with the orders. because I don't want to see someone to get hurt. And that's why we train. We train for a reason. We train to deal with different situations. But sometimes those situations can go for the worse. So, and I ask it, on a traffic stop, if you put your hands on the steering wheel, roll down your window, roll down your back window. That especially at nighttime, that helps the officer or the deputy see what's going on inside the vehicle. And that kind of takes us down one level. We should always be prepared. That's what we train for. As a law enforcement officer, we train and we prepare every day. But, little things that the citizens can do to help us, take one step down, one step further. And as sheriff, if you have an issue with my deputy, if my deputy is rude to you, I want you to call me. Corey Rink will talk to you on the phone. I'm not going to put up with an employee being rude to the citizens of this great state. So, if we have, like I said, on a traffic stop, just being cautious, working with the officer. If it's a civil rights violation, I don't recommend arguing with the officer right there. Let's take care of the situation first and come and talk to me, the sheriff. I'll take care of that issue. We're not going to have civil rights violations. So, with the community working together and responding to each other just like we are here today, and that way you all are learning from us and we can learn from you, will definitely make our society a better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a lot of questions. I am trying to get the ones that are most similar and try to combine them into one good question. But we're going to try to get to all of the questions, as many as we can possibly get to tonight. This one we're going to start off with Mr. Helm, and I think this is a great question. The question is, how do we bring diversity to the Sheriff's Department? How do we bring diversity to the Sheriff's Department?
This has been talked about over and over. People need to apply. Simple as that. We will hire anybody if they're qualified. It doesn't matter where you come from, your background, your culture. We're pretty diverse now, and I see no reason why to stop. It helps our department. It helps us interact with the public, but I don't know if it's a way we can advertise to change that. I don't know. But we have great people at our department. I think that it's a really good environment to learn in, to work in, but I can't answer why or how to change that. Come do ride-alongs, see if you like it. Come visit with my deputies on the side of the road, and flag them down and visit with them. If you're interested, man, do a ride-along. If you're not sure yet, but you don't want to commit that 100% time, do a reserve program. See if you like it. That's what my dad told me to do. I did the reserves, see if I liked it or not, and I kept going. I didn't put all my time in a full-time academy. I had to see if I was cut out for it, for one. And you can ask my wife, if I was in my 20s still, they wouldn't took me. So, but now, it's a hard question to answer, and we've had this talk, me and Ms. Norwood and some others. Help me help change that. Give me some ideas.
Thank you. It is a hard question, but it is a fair question.
It is.
Mr. Momsen.
I would like to touch on the fact of the applicants. We need those people to apply, but we can't make them. At the Enid Diversity Walk that Ms. Norwood put on, they talked about a black-only African-American female that was a pilot, and they challenged other females to step out to do that. We challenge those people to apply. At our department, we have Native Americans, Hispanics, African-Americans. We have all those people that are part of our department. That's a great way, but we can't make people apply.
Yeah.
But as your sheriff, what I can do, and what I've been pushing this entire time, is community policing. Having those deputies get out of their patrol cars and be involved in community events, going down to the Juneteenth celebrations, going out to the LGBT Pride celebration. It's June, Pride Month. Going out to the monthly coalition meetings for the Marshall Islanders that is hosted down at the public library. Getting out of your patrol zone, getting out of your patrol car, letting the public know that we partner with you. We're not against you. It's not us against you all. We're a part of you, and being involved in those diverse, or bringing those diverse cultures and community settings. That is the only way to bring diversity into the Sheriff's Department. We can sit here and beg and plead for applicants all we want, but what we can do and what we have the control to do, and what I will do if I'm elected sheriff, is to make sure that we're being part of all those events, making sure that we're going out to those events. And that way, deputies that may move here that don't understand the Marshall Islander culture, or they're not exposed to the Juneteenth celebrations, that way they get out and they get to understand why those people celebrate, why they sing the music that they sing, why they hold the flags that they hold to show that they're pride, and why they're proud of them coming out and being themselves pridefully. That's everything that a sheriff's department needs to do. That's community policing. That's what we are here for as public servants. That's what I've been doing since I started patrol and working the streets, being involved in the community, letting them know I'm there with you, I'm there for you, we're going to do this together. That is the only way possible to bring diversity into the Garfield County Sheriff's Office, and I will do that if I'm elected sheriff.
Thank you. Mr. Reed.
Bringing diversity in the Sheriff's Department, and like I talked a little bit about earlier, having community-oriented programs. I believe that it's great that we get out and interact with the citizens, no matter who they are, what groups that they attend. And just like Mr. Momsen said about, the Marshallese, working with the NAACP and bringing groups together. And I would like to see a career day. I'd like to bring you in. I want to show you what we do at the Sheriff's Department. I want to show you what we do at the Garfield County Jail. I believe that we can bring some great employees in with a career day and getting young folks into the jail to work for us, to work at the Sheriff's Office, to work in our dispatch with, having this to let people know what we are about. Would you agree, Mr. Crooks? We need good qualified people in working for our department. We need good, hard-working people throughout the state of Oklahoma. Every law enforcement agency out there are looking for good people. And I believe that we could start today and being community-oriented, showing the folks what we're about, listening to what they have to say, will definitely bring good quality employees to our Sheriff's Office.
Wonderful, wonderful. This question will start with Mr. Momsen. This is from Alfred Baldwin Jr., Alfred Baldwin III. What can you and the citizens do to support the community in an effort to prevent crime? What can you do as sheriff with the community or with the citizens in an effort to prevent crime? What can you do?
First of all, you have to be an ear. You have to be willing to listen to people. You have to be willing to take the time to visit with people, to let them talk to you, let them know what they're facing, whatever crime it is. Oftentimes you hear, this is the city of Enid, you got to call the police department. It might be the city of Enid, but I work for the sheriff's office, so I want to hear what you have to say.
Can I go back, because I want to make sure we got this?
Yes.
The question is, what can you do in conjunction with the citizens? What can you do as a sheriff in conjunction with the citizens to help prevent crime? Is there anything that we can do together? What can we do as citizens in conjunction with the sheriff's department to help prevent crimes?
The only thing we can do is communicate and be one, be a team, be transparent. Tell us if you see something, say something. If you don't have that communication, you don't have that relationship, that trust, there's no way to come together and be partners to take a fight on crime. It's not going to be possible. That's what I was getting at, is the getting out of your vehicle, talking to these people, listening to what people have to say, because if they don't trust you and they're not listening, you're never going to partner with people to connect, to fight crime together. That is the only way. Get out of your car, let them know you care, let them know that you want to hear them, let them know they're important. And then you'll get flagged down at 2:30 in the morning working night shift by a guy that's at on cue. He'll say, hey, so-and-so was doing this, or up on the hill I had this movement. That's the only way, is to talk to the people and let them be part of your operation. If you sit there and you be silent, you walk past them, drive past them with your windows up, they're not going to talk to you. there's not going to be a partnership. I learned that very valuable lesson when I went to Drummond and took over as their small town chief of police. I had to get out of the car. I had to talk to people. I had to let them know I'm here to serve you all. And then the partnership forms itself. It's the only way.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mr. Helm?
Be diligent. Be observant to your surroundings. If you see anything that's out of the ordinary, call us. It doesn't matter if you think it's a petty little thing. I've talked to many farmers that told me months after that, well, yeah, you know, I lost all my solar panels, but they must need them more than I did. Well, if you don't tell us, we can't track that. We don't know that it even happened. And so many people in the country, it's kind of split. You'll get half of them, man, they'll track you down on their own and stuff, give us a call, and then do that. The other half are like, well, I think they need it more than I did, so I'll just go get another one. So we track this stuff, regardless if we can figure out who stole it or not. We track these patterns, so we know what's going on in the county. We know what areas are being hit, and call us, man. Even if it's little, call us. And we're used to the county, not really Enid, but we do talk to Enid. Enid talks to us. We both go to the same muster. I make sure my guys know what's going on in Enid, so in the evenings on muster, they hear what Enid has to say, what's going on, so we know what's going on. We know what to look for, and vice versa. So stuff ends up in Enid, and some of the Enid guys probably don't even know what a solar panel is for a fence charger. But they'll look it up, they'll know, they'll be able to call us, say, hey, we found 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 of these in a pickup, and we're going to get a lead from that. So call us, let us know what's going on. If you think it's out of the ordinary, call us.
Mr. Rink?
Yes, sir. So things that the sheriff could do to work with the citizens to help deter crime.
Yes.
I truly believe in the Neighborhood Watch program. I think that is a great way to get information out to citizens such as yourself to be aware of your surroundings. The citizens are our eyes and ears. So if we're not listening to what you have to say, and we're not listening to what you have to say and what you have to say, then what good are we doing? We're not helping protecting the community. We need to know and we need to see what issues are going on out there. So I really truly believe that the Neighborhood Watch program, which the National Sheriff's Association sponsors, is a great community-oriented group for all of us to get together and get aware of the issues in our areas. I think having one in each community, having a group of volunteers to sit down together and talk about things, letting the citizens know, hey, it's Christmas time is coming up. We need to make sure that keep your doors locked, keep your vehicles locked. We're having burglaries in this area. So I believe communication with the sheriff's office and every police department throughout Garfield County and the citizens can get together and solve our issues. So,
Thank you so much. This next question we'll start with you again, Mr. Rink.
it's my
You guys
turn.
need a
It's
break?
my
Are you
turn.
okay? He says it's my turn. You guys okay? All right. Given your limited resources, what is your plan to work with our law enforcement agencies to the most efficiency to cover the whole county? What are your plans to work with other law enforcement agencies to be more effective
Yes.
in this county?
I want to work with our other law enforcement agencies. We have a lot of fine police departments throughout Garfield County. I want to work with the city of Enid. I want to work with Wacomas, Covington. The Garber police, or the town of Garber, is fixing to implement their police department back again, and so I want to work with that new Garber police chief. I want to work with Lahoma and North Enid. We should work on training issues. We should train together. We should be going to schools in those in those areas and talking about issues and working together about safety plans for every school, because I truly believe right here in Enid, if something would happen, God forbid, we don't want anything to happen, but if something would happen, I want to work with the Enid Police Department, I want to work with Enid Public Schools, and I want the Sheriff's Office to be involved. And that way we've got a game plan of what's going on before something happens. That goes for every town, every school across our county. And if it's for bordering agencies, we may need to do the same. You think about, Pond Creek Hunters not very far from us, and they may need some assistance with our on-duty deputies in, we'll say, in an active shooter situation or a kidnapping situation or hostage situation, whatever it may be. We need to be able to work with these guys. We can do it with funding that we have now. We don't need any extra funding. We're already out here. We're doing the job. We're doing it every day. The taxpayers are paying our salary. The taxpayers are paying us to protect you. And that's what I'll do as your sheriff for Garfield County.
Thank you so much, Mr. Momsen. Want me to read it again, or you got it?
I'm good. What I'll do as sheriff is I would do exactly what I've been doing. Working and including all the agencies that Mr. Rink included in our jurisdiction. Partnering with them. Making intel sheets of saying this is our stolen property, this is what we're missing. Forwarding out those newsletters, letting all the chiefs of police knows, all the surrounding agencies. Doing exactly what I've been doing since I've been on patrol and since I went to investigations. I went to Sheriff Helm and said, hey, it'd be nice to sit down with some of these investigators and get on the same page. We had an area meeting. Invited sheriffs, we all come down. A few of us had a meeting. We're part of it. That's STEM now, the local sheriffs surrounding our agency. They're working on getting a property crimes task force in place so that they can, a couple of people from each jurisdiction can get on this team and work property crimes and follow it as it goes out in different jurisdictions and keep up with those cases. That's a great program. I support that. But during that meeting, Wacoma's police chief wasn't there. Lahoma police chief wasn't there. North Enid police chief wasn't there. There wasn't a representative from Enid Police Department. When crime happens in Enid, those people flee. Anyone that's been in law enforcement, been around Enid, they flee and they go bed down in the smaller towns. You have to get the people in your jurisdiction and in your area involved as well. I will do exactly what I've been doing, what all my training and mentors have trained me to do. Communicate with law enforcement officers in your jurisdiction and outsiders. I get phone calls. I'm on vacation. I was talking with the Department of Ag. We're sharing stories and information about suspects. I talk to people in Logan County. I've got people in Kay County. Just network. That's the answer to it. But I'm not going to sit here and say I'm running for sheriff, so this is what I'm going to do from this point. This is what I've been doing. This is what I stand for, and that's what I'll continue doing.
Thank you so much. Mr. Helm, would you like me to read the question again?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
We are doing this task force. It's a property crimes task force. And it is in the baby stages due to COVID, due to the elections. You got a lot of sheriffs. We're trying to get on the same page. We're trying to get a lot of on the same page. But it will happen, and it will include all the little jurisdictions, all the little towns. But right now, I've got to get the big picture put together so we can get all the policies in place. We can get everything lined out, all the DAs on board, all the sheriffs on board, and figure out how we're going to design this, how we're going to maintain it, and who's going to run this. Is it going to be all the departments? We're not there yet. Like I said, COVID and sheriff's elections shut us down on that. It is still coming. We still talk about it. We've got quite a few sheriffs still interested. And that will include small towns and their counties, our counties, PD, because we're going to have to let people know what we're doing. But the neat thing about it is there are no boundaries to a certain extent. The second part is it multiplies manpower. I give up one person, and each county gives up 1 to 2 people. They can be in here, and we'll have 6 or 7 people in our county working this crime while I still conduct business and we take care of what we need to take care of. If they need help, we can multiply that. It's the same thing in all the other counties. So we're going to have to get together and figure those little nuts and bolts out. It takes time to get everybody on the same page, but we'll get there, and this will happen. And that's my response to that.
Thank you. This one, we're going to start with Mr. Helm, and this is a great question that we all should be concerned with. This question is, what will you do to ensure the safety of our deputies during the time of unrest toward police officers? What are you guys doing to ensure the safety of our deputies? It's a tough question.
There's not more to this?
But it's a fair question.
Okay. What am I doing? We are keeping an eye on each other. We do talk to each other. My guys constantly off duty, they are always carrying. And that's one part. I'm not sure if I'm going to touch everything on what this question really probably needs. But second thing is, training is going to be
There you go.
a key factor in a lot of this. How we take care of each other. And I'm speaking about on duty. I don't know if this is an off duty or on duty question. But the totality of it is training is going to be a big key in this. The equipment that we bought the new body armor to make sure that they have that chance. Some of our body armor was 15 plus years old. Now we've got new body armor.
Yeah.
Tasers for the less lethal. The training for the tasers. And training is going to be key on this. It really is. But we have to watch each other's back. We need the citizens to help us do this. We need you to be included, that we are not the enemy. We are here to help. We come here. This is a calling for all three of us. We just didn't jump into this and say, I'm going to be rich. That ain't happening. We don't even make probably what most teachers make. But we're doing this job. We will stand in front of a bullet. We will get our rear ends kicked if we have to save a life. We will go in protection mode because it's in our blood. This is what we are here to do. So I'm going to say training, watching out for each other. The citizens helping us with this will help a lot. Just like that great question, what do I do on this traffic stop? Yeah. You guys got to do your part to help us, especially our new guys, to come back down to reality, because this might be their first traffic stop. It might be their 10th. I didn't get comfortable till I was well in the hundreds. I can look in the mirror now and know if I'm in trouble or not just by the mirror. It's a weird thing. You can tell by eyes. You can tell by movement. You take all this stuff together. But it's going to take the citizens to help us. We need to work together, get this dialogue going, so we can understand each other, what your job is, what our job is. I think that's going to be key.
Thank you, Mr. Rink.
For the safety of our employees, and I'm going to say all of our employees need to make sure that, and this is through training, through experience, that situational awareness, no different than the citizens out here in Garfield County, need to make sure that you're always aware of your surroundings. And that's the same thing that, as a deputy, as a law enforcement officer, we're always, assessing threat levels, not to just our employees, but our constituents, and including our government. They're always assessing threat levels from other countries that could potentially invade our country. So, and monitoring, for some reason, a lot of people like to post stuff out there on social media, on Facebook, that they're going to do harm or an ill towards another person. And so we need to make sure that we monitor those people, and citizens such as yourself reporting those instances to your sheriff's office and to your local police department will definitely help make everybody's lives a little easier and safer of just being aware of what's going on. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moss.
Training and safety, communication with your staff to make sure that they understand that we have to put our safety first so we can render aid and respond to the public. Not saying that any life is more important than the other one, but to let them know that in order for us to help and respond, we all have to be on the same page, and we have to be ready to respond and react on our training and what we've learned, our experiences, and everything that we've compiled as law enforcement officers. They need to understand that when it's time to be nice, we're nice. But when it's time to tactically take care of business and to render problems and de-escalate situations, we do that also with the idea of public safety. There's a way to de-escalate problems, diffuse situations, take things apart, but to do it professionally and tactically and responsibly. But the key to all that is you need to make sure that employees understand that we have to be safe so that we can render safety to the public.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to try to read this as best I can. I believe it's your turn, isn't it, Mr. Ring? We've seen neighborhood watch programs go wrong. The Sheriff of Canadian County is asking private citizens to arm themselves to assist the sheriff. Is this responsible leadership? How would you ensure that private citizens aren't taking the law into their own hands?
I guess I wasn't aware of the sheriff of Canadian County of asking folks to arm themselves. You know, of course, in our state of Oklahoma, that we do have the right to bear arms, but and I believe that with a posse, as my understanding of what
That's what it sounds like.
His intentions are is for citizens to be proactive in helping in situations such as you know, large riots, and being eyes and ears for his law enforcement agency. You know, and I think that I do think that you know, as where I thought his intentions were going with this, that I believe that a posse is a positive thing, such as our reserve program. I believe that our reserve program, you know, rates just up there with that. In the neighborhood watch program, you know, going back to just the citizens being our eyes and ears, you know, observe and report, you know, for law enforcement to protect and serve each citizen of Garfield County. So, thank you.
Mr. Momsen.
I can't really comment on the actions of the sheriff from Canadian County, but I can tell you now that it's going to open up some liability. When you go give citizens power, you give them a neighborhood watch program, things can go wrong. We saw that on the news. We saw the UPS driver get detained in a gated community. We saw that. Same thing that I do when I talk to victims of burglaries and things like that. Not necessarily a neighborhood watch program, but let them know we're in this together. Facebook us on our social media and let us know when there's a suspect vehicle. Give us tag information. Send us videos that you've taken. Get on to the Enid Police Department's text a tip. There's ways to communicate with that. We don't necessarily have to label it to a neighborhood watch program. We don't have to even set ourselves up for any kind of liability for our department and a lawsuit for the taxpayers. But there are ways that we can get programs together, get a communication together with the citizens to let them know they can still help us. That is a concern on the neighborhood watch program, is how much authority are they going to have, but also no matter what you do, that's why we have policy and procedures, because my common sense is different than yours and different than hers and different than this person's. There's going to be a liability. So I would have to say that just let them know that, give us all the information. I tell victims the same thing. If you see someone, if you see the suspect vehicle, don't pursue them, don't interact with them, call us. Watch from a distance, and that's the best way to do that. That way we can avoid that liability.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. If you want to help us like that, you need to join our reserve program. Get the training, get used to how we do stuff, and help us that way. I don't know why this stuck in my head, but it popped out just a couple seconds ago. We used to have kind of a silent neighborhood watch in the day. People used to sit on their porches at night. They used to talk to their neighbors. That's gone. I don't know why. I don't know if we're just too busy. We don't care. I don't know. But people used to be on their porch at night, visiting with someone else, visiting with grandma, drinking their tea. They knew what was going on in the county or in their neighborhoods. You know, I'd like to see that come back. I don't know how that could happen, but I guess we're too busy now. I don't know. But yeah, join a reserve program, get that training where you can help us. And as far as the citizens, if you want to help, man, tell us what's going on in the county. Tell us what's going on in your neighborhood. Let us help that way. And you guys can help us by doing it that way. Write stuff down, tag numbers, descriptions, you know, help us.
Good answer. To be clear, none of you guys are promoting vigilante programs.
Well,
No. Absolutely not.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question, I believe we're starting with Mr. Helm. I believe. This question is from, again, Alfred Baldwin III. How do you propose to bridge the gap between the police and African American citizens?
How do I propose to bridge the gap? Dialogue. You got to, how do I say this without being way out there? My culture or the way I grew up is not your culture. Yours is not my culture. If I need to know how your culture is, and it's not just any races. There's some races that are way out there. You know, don't look in the eyes, don't do this, and you know, we don't know unless we all get together and we discuss this and see how we can change our policing to help the community and all the races. How that comes together, I don't know. I'm game for dialogue. I'm game for having everybody come over in a setting like this and talk about it.
Yep.
As long as it's constructive and you bring constructive materials, questions, answers, I don't care what it is, to this dialogue, that's how we move forward. That's how I would say we would cure this. But you got to bring that to us. You got to bring something that's constructive that will help us. Just being aggravated, just grumping, that doesn't help at all. We need to be positive. Let's work together. Let's do this. And I am open for any suggestions on that. I definitely am.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mr. Rink?
Yes. So, you know, growing up in a small town, I never knew that racism is a problem. I wasn't grown up that way. I wasn't taught that way. You know, growing up I'm a Lutheran. I'm growing up in St. John's Lutheran Church. You know, the preacher has always told us that all men are created equal. And so, how I want to bridge the gaps, and you know, as I've gone further into my career, and as I talked to you earlier about working with Officer Ross, and how I want to bridge those gaps is with my community policing, getting involved. That's the sheriff's job, is to get involved with every community throughout Garfield County. And so, and bringing the diversity training in to the sheriff's office, having everyone, you know, and like I said earlier, you know, the African American, the Marshallese, the Asians, and come in and talk to us about your cultures. I want to hear about the issues that are going on. Just a few weeks ago, Mr. Momsen and I was sitting right here in this same room at a city meeting, and there was a lot of concerned citizens out there. And I'll tell you what, I know Mr. Momsen and I, we learned quite a bit from that, didn't we? We learned a lot. And I believe every city council member on that in that room that day also learned a lot. And so I do believe that we can work together and work through these issues that's occurring right here in the United States in Garfield County, Oklahoma.
Thank you, Mr. Momsen.
The way I would bridge that gap is community policing. Be involved. Ms. Norwood, Mr. Baldwin, if there's any community events that go on you would like us to be part of, we'll be there. Someone from the sheriff's office should be there. If you guys have a youth group at your church and they want to know about law enforcement, they want to see inside one of our police cars, they want to know what it looks like to live in our life. If you have young adults that has an interest in law enforcement, I challenge them to do it right along for them. Tell them to come out and be part of us. If we can, the only way to bridge it is for us to be part of one another together. And if we have community events at the sheriff's office, invite everyone to be part of that. But the only way to bridge that gap is to come together and be a partner in that. And I'm going to take you up on your offer, Ms. Norwood. I'm going to come to an NAACP meeting. Mr. Gray mentioned before that he has a program for after-school troubled kids or those are less privileged. Due to the COVID, it's been on hold. But I'm going to take him up on that option. I'm going to step out and I'm going to go be a volunteer and see what he needs and how I can be of service. The only way to bridge any kind of gap or any kind of gap in our society is to step out and be the change, be involved, and see how you can offer those services. But also, if I'm elected sheriff, if I'm not able to be at an NAACP meeting, I think a deputy should to go and attend. If I'm not able to be at an event that Southern Heights has put on, or the Marsh Islander community out at their church is having, someone is available on their 11-hour patrol shift to stop by that event and say, hey, how are you? This is what's going on. And everybody that I know in this room loves food. I haven't turned down an event once that said, hey, we're feeding or we're eating at this time, come by and say hello to everybody. That's a great way to bridge that gap. And that's the only way that we can do it as a community is step out, be involved.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That would lead us into the question from Mr. John Gray. And I believe we're starting with
I'll go.
Mr. Reed. This question is from Mr. John Gray. It says, I am the director of a mentoring program that is in the schools of Enid graduates, or excuse me, grades K through 12. How can we partner up and reach the youth of Enid? How can we partner with the Sheriff's Department to reach the youth of Enid? It's a great program.
Yes. Mr. Gray, I definitely want to thank you for your services. Mentoring young children, young adults, is a big challenge, especially in today's society. And as sheriff, I want to work with you. I want to work with schools, churches, and I want to bring us together. And hopefully, with us working together, and that way these young adults can see what their local law enforcement, their sheriff is truly about, and it's for the public and it's for them. Now, I want to make sure that the sheriff and his deputies attend the ball games, attend musicals, because we should be making sure that we cheer those folks on, with the young minds. We need to make sure, we need to congratulate them every day, and I want them to know that their sheriff is there for them, and we were there to serve and protect them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Momsen.
I saw a video at my church here in Enid at World Harvest of the program that Mr. Gray offers, and also there's a guy at my church, Justin Simmons, that are involved in this youth program. And from the moment that I saw that video, I told my wife that's something that I want to be involved in. It's very important. And to give you a little history, I met Mr. Gray whenever he came on as Prevention Works. Prevention Works was a nonprofit organization that partnered with youth, and we had a goal to prevent alcohol access for the underage volunteers, or the underage community. And I played a big role in that. I partnered with that prevention board. But also, as time passed, I watched a description in a presentation that Mr. Gray talked about this program, and I saw that he is very passionate. I went to Longfellow. I grew up on the east side of town. This program is very vital. Those children need to know that they are not subject to any bias that we have set for them for growing up on the east side of Enid. So the way that I'm going to bridge that gap, Mr. Gray, I said it a while ago, I don't know if you heard me, I'm going to take you up, I'm going to step out. When that program starts up, I'm going to come there. I'll be there in uniform as a law enforcement officer, or I'll come in plain clothes. Whatever you all feel like that bridge can be given, whether I just say, hey, I'm a cop, if you guys want information about my job, whatever you guys need, I want to be part of that. If I need to drive children across town and bus them to a facility or go home, I want to be there to serve you guys, because there is a bias here in Enid. People believe that the east side of Enid is less than anywhere else.
Yes, sir.
I am a proud product of the east side of Enid, and I want to give back to that community. I want to let them know you too can sit up on this stage someday and run for sheriff. You can run for county commissioner. You can run for mayor. You can do every single thing that you want to do. And I want to be in part of Mr. Gray's program. I want the sheriff's office to be an advocate of that program, to build those spirits up in those children. We need to build our children up. They are our next generation. So I will step out and I will take that challenge. You will see me. Please let me know when your program does start back up, or I'll probably keep up with it and let you know too. I'm really excited about being involved. That is the only way to make a difference, is stepping out and being involved.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mr. Helm?
I visited with him just a little bit ago too. I asked him to come give me a visit so he could come, explain what he does, and then maybe we can even get a class together where he can explain to my deputies, all of them, what he does, and let's see what we can do to help. I wasn't even aware of what you were doing, so yeah, I'm game. Come see me. We'll talk about it. We'll set it up.
Wonderful. We need to get more programs involving mentorship and working in conjunction with law enforcement. This is how we raise our children to understand what you need to be doing when you are pulled over, or when things happen. This is how we teach them, is when they're working with law enforcement. Great question. These next questions here are questions that I believe we need to have some knowledge of, and I believe we start with Mr. Momsen. This question is, when is it necessary to search a vehicle on a traffic stop? That's the first part. The second part is, when is it necessary to bring drugs dogs in to a traffic stop? So somebody wants to know, when is it necessary to search a vehicle on a traffic stop? What makes the officer want to search a car on a traffic stop, on a routine traffic stop?
We all attend training or go through training about traffic stops, starting from the academy, but also there are certain classes that you can also take and then grow in your law enforcement. There are different indicators.
Okay.
Smell of marijuana, whether it's burnt or raw, smell of alcohol, smell of any other drug, anything naturally that you can detect and say, hey, this isn't normal. Those are all indicators to move forward into or beyond your probable cause for your stop. If those indicators are there and you know without a doubt, you can testify solely that that's there, then that's when you can ask for consent to search on that vehicle.
Okay.
Again, consent to search. They're not required to, you're asking. And there's a class that I took, when to call a canine officer. It was presented by the chief of police in Wacomas. It was an 8-hour course about when to know to move from your investigation spot, your traffic stop, and call the canine. When that consent to search is declined, and you know without a doubt, based on your training, your experience, and all of the techniques that you've equipped and put in your toolbox, that there's something illegal going on, then you can train, or you can call in that canine.
But when people decline to search it, that doesn't necessarily mean there's drugs. Some people just don't feel you
Absolutely.
should have the opportunity to just search the car.
And there's case law in place on time limits, and when you call that canine in, there are boundaries that you still have to follow. Even though you make a conscious decision to call in the canine, you still need to know whether your probable cause is solid and what you're picking up and what you're indicating. All that has to be scrutinized in the court of law. I have to be able to testify in front of a judge and a jury that this is why I did that. And you better be on point, because they're going to hold you to that. But yeah, they can decline that. And if they decline it, if you believe in the job that you're doing and you're taking the oath that you have, and you don't have a canine out there, then guess what? That's the day that they said, sorry, no. Guess what you do? Here's your stuff, deal with the ticket, or deal with the warning, whatever you were going to do, conduct business, and go on about your way. You don't push those people, you don't pressure those people. If you're searching and they say, hey, I said you could search, but now I changed my mind. If you don't have a canine available, search terminates.
Wow.
So you have to understand everything that we do. There's a flow to it. There's a procedure to go to that.
Right.
Policy and procedure will dictate that. But you have to know that if you really believe that and you can testify to your findings, then you can call that canine and they can come there. And if you get a hit, then you continue on with your traffic stop. But yeah, you have to know those, and you have to,
Yes.
It's credibility. You have to be able to articulate what you did and why you did that. Because really, we're not in the business to go out and to jam anybody up or to cause anybody any kind of hardship when it doesn't need to be there. So I would like to say that the majority of law enforcement officers, I know the people I work with, they know those guidelines and they know what's expected.
Gotcha. Very good. Very good. Mr. Helm. Ditto.
Repeat that real quick.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Repeat.
Repeat the question.
Repeat the question. The question is, when is it necessary? First of all, when is it necessary to search a vehicle on a traffic stop? When is it necessary? And the next question is, when is it necessary to bring the drug dogs to a traffic stop?
Okay. There's the three of us up here. We're all going to have a different technique on how we know when we want to search a vehicle and how we're going to proceed from there. My technique was always, I do body language. I look at the carotid artery. I look at stuff that you can't control. So these arteries here, when I make my approach and I look in there, I'm going to act like I always act. I'm going to ask the same questions I always ask. I'm going to get your license, your insurance. I'm going to tell you why I stopped you for. I'm going to try to bring you back down, because everybody gets nervous when they get pulled over. I'm going to try to bring you back down. Hey, man, I'm going to write you a warning. I'll be right back. So now they know they're getting a warning. It gives them time to settle back down. When I come back up there and this artery is jumping, there's an issue. You're hiding something, or you're still scared. I have to decide what that is. But all the laws are the same for everybody. If I ask for consent to search, you tell me no, we're done if I can't get a drug dog. Now, as far as a drug dog, I was a canine handler. That response time has to be done within the normal time it takes to write a traffic ticket. So if I'm Mr. Speedy, or not a traffic ticket, but any kind of encounter like that, so for a traffic offense. So if it takes me 10 minutes every time to write a ticket, to do all my background checks, to get with dispatch, and all that, and I come back. That's the only amount of time you have to get that canine there. Now, you can go above and beyond and articulate more reasoning, but you better have some dang good reasoning for that. But no, all the rules are the same across the board. Whether I have a canine, I had my own canine with me, I could free or sniff any time. I don't have to have a reason to free or sniff, but if I don't have a reason, why am I going to waste my time? So there's a lot of things that goes on. That's a hard question to answer. Every one of us is going to answer different. Everyone in PD is going to answer different. My county guys are going to answer different. I had different training than probably these guys because of my canine, because of my drug training, because the canines got more in depth with that. So as long as it's done by the law, then you should be fine.
Okay, Mr. Rink, you need to repeat it or you got it?
Oh, no, I got it. Thank you. So both these gentlemen up here had fine answers. You know, it falls back to our training. We have to train in order to learn what the laws are. So if I'm on a traffic stop and I have probable cause to search a vehicle, as you know, Mr. Momsen stated, is odor of intoxicants, odor of alcohol, odor of marijuana, burnt or unburnt, that gives us probable cause to search a vehicle. But if you don't have that, and you search that person's vehicle, and they tell you no, that you cannot search it, you're violating their civil rights. Mm-hmm. And as sheriff, I am not going to put up with someone violating civil rights. That's why we train and we educate our employees. That way we know where we need to stop. If they tell me to kick sand, I've got to let them go. And as such as Mr. Momsen stated about bringing in, you know, the drug dog, we have a certain amount of time to bring that in. Again, if that drug dog is not there within a certain amount of time, guess what? We're breaking someone's civil rights. Again, we are violating the law. And as sheriff, his job is to uphold the law and to train his employees to make sure that we are not going to break your civil rights.
Very good. Thank you. Another question, educational question is, what is your policy on checking driver's license on every person in the car? Let's start with Mr. Momsen, I believe.
And there currently isn't a policy that tells us. That'd be more of a procedure, and those are not in place right now to cover that subject. But
Is it legal? Is it legitimately legal to ask for every person in the car's driver's license?
They don't have to give you their ID card. Okay. If you ask for their name, they can provide that. They do provide that, yes. The driver is required to give you that also. If they don't have the driver's license, they have to identify themselves. Okay. Whenever you go forcing people that are occupants of the car for their ID because someone was speeding, then you're going to get in an area where you better be able to vouch. You better be able to testify in court why you did that. Because if my wife's driving and she gets pulled over for speeding, all I have to do is tell the officer, I'm Daryl Momsen. This is my date of birth. I don't have to get my ID out. I don't have to do those things.
That's good to know.
But be able to back up what you're doing in court.
That's good to know. Unless you have any different response, and you don't have to add, unless you've got a different response to that, Mr.
Well, I'd like to add just a little bit to that, if I could, and stuff. A lot of people think that you're just harassing them, and it's a two-sided thing. If I can ask, you can tell me no, like Mr. Momsen said, you can give me a name, date of birth, but I'm not going to do that myself personally on somebody I've seen at Walmart or something. If I've seen them, I'm not going to do that. But if you're coming through town, I'm going to ask. Maybe you'll give it to me, maybe you won't, because I'm looking for that person that might be fleeing from another state. There's all kinds of criminal elements out there that hide and all that. I asked every time. Maybe 10% of the time I'd get it. Maybe next week, 50% they'd give it to me, their ID. But that's fine. If they give me their name, I can still do some checks to make sure. I can't tell if they're telling me the truth or not. But yeah, there's more to it than just thinking that you're being harassed. Now, I'm sure there's some that happens that you get this every single time you get pulled over. Well, I don't agree with that either. But if you're new to me, I would like to know. That way I know if you're coming through town, you got warrants out of another county, you're just trying to hide. So there's kind of two parts to that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rink, would you like to respond to that, or?
Yes, sir. You know, when you make a traffic stop, you're dealing with that driver. That driver had violated the law. It doesn't mean that everybody else in that vehicle has violated the law. And so if they have not done something to violate the law, and you ask them for their driver's license, they don't have to give it to you. If they tell you no, you can't force them to give it to you. And again, if that officer or that employee, deputy, sheriff, highway patrolman, whatever it is making you give that to them, again, you're going back to a civil rights violation, you're violating the law. And so we've got to go back to training, make sure that we train our employees to know what the civil rights violations are and know when and how to properly ask for identification.
This question will start with Mr. Helm. These next two questions are how do you intend? How do you intend to solve the meth problem in this county?
How do I intend? I wish, for one, they would have never made it a misdemeanor. That would have helped us. And I'm not saying that because I want everybody to go to prison. I'm saying that because we used, or the court system used that as a felony to say, hey, go get treatment, or we're going to do this. So we lost that. I think that was important to have. But we're just going to keep hammering it and keep going, just like if it was still a felony, but it's a misdemeanor. I'd like to see more treatment programs where they mandate more treatment programs. And it's the same with the mental health. They're just not out there. You got mental health court firing up. I'm really curious how that helps with getting the mental health out of my jail and even drug users out of my jail. So yeah, I don't know. We're just going to have to keep doing it like we've always done it, and maybe enough times through the system, maybe with family help and the courts help, maybe they will finally open their eyes and get us some treatment facilities that we can actually help these people with.
Thank you. Mr. Momsen, go ahead. You can respond to that one.
Networking. If you get information, or you get information from the public, or you arrest somebody, you respond to a call for domestic or child welfare check, and there's drugs involved, pass it on to the narcotics unit at the police department. Pass it on to the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics. If you get good intel from a reserve or from a chaplain or from anybody that's part of public that tells you, hey, there's a lot of traffic here, there's a lot of stuff going on, people bring that to you. Spend a little time on it. Get the investigators out there and do some trash pulls when they set the trash out to the curb. Go through that trash, sift through it, see what's going on, see if there's any evidence of that. And then just start your case. Start that like any other investigation. We're not ever going to stop the fight on drugs, the war on drugs, the meth problem. But the only way to do it is if you actually get something presented to you. You don't let it sit idle, let it get dust on it, put it on the shelf. You take action and do what you can with what you've been presented with. So the only way to really take on is to network and tell other people's, or the persons, I'm sorry. And then we'll go back to the school resource, talking to the children. Our children are our next generation. They're watching TikTok videos, they're watching social media posters, seeing Twitter. It's cool to them to see somebody vape. It's fearful for me. I don't like my daughter to talk about someone on video that's vaping, or someone that look cool doing something on social media, because that's what our generation is tending to. We need to get the parents trained. We need to let them know the dangers of drugs. We need to know that these kids are hiding drugs inside ink pens or inside different tools or in their phone case. You need to do that. We need to teach our children to do that. We need to have our deputies involved, and we need to get these resources out there and get it out to the public, because that's what's going to happen is our children are going to see that. They're either going to make a decision at that school, that's something I want to try. They're going to say no, and they're going to have the courage to walk away from it. But if we never tell them, we never spread that word, we don't have a deputy out there to educate them, we don't have people giving them that knowledge, then they're going to become another statistic, and they're going to be into that trail, and we don't need that. So it's twofold. My answer is network, work the investigations that come to you, communicate with those other agencies, but start with our younger generation. Make sure those deputies are in the schools, passing on those resources, and just let's not deny that it's out there. Let's tell people. The only way to tell people it's out there is, hey, be on the lookout for this. Be vigilant. This is a problem.
Thank you. Mr. Rink?
Yes, the meth issue in Garfield County is a big issue.
Yes, sir.
It's getting into our schools. It's getting into our yards. At times we'll have neighbors call in and say, I found needles in my yard. It's because their neighbor threw needles out there in their yard, or they threw it in the trash can, the dog got in the trash can and drug the bag of trash across the yard, and now it's spread all over the place. So we need to work with other agencies. Since I've been at Noble County Sheriff's Department, we have worked with Drug Task Force. We have worked with the DA's Task Force. Closing down the doors to our drug houses in Noble County is a priority. And I intend to bring that back here to Garfield County. With networking with the citizens of Garfield County and trying to find out the issues in your hometown, in your area, in your community is going to help us solve those issues that we have throughout Garfield County. Yes, I understand that, it's a misdemeanor now. I don't agree with that. Because our kids are getting into drugs. If a kid brings a bag of syringes to school, used needles, that's an issue. We need to make sure that we get DHS involved. We need to make sure that we're probably going to need to do a search warrant on a home. We need to make sure that we are protecting the lives of these young children. When we're closing down the doors to the drug houses throughout Garfield County, we're also doing other things. We're solving burglaries. We're solving larcenies, sex trafficking. There's a lot of issues that come with meth. And I know there's quite a few other law enforcement officers in this room this evening, and I think everybody in here can agree, including these gentlemen right up here, that it's a problem in Garfield County and it needs to stop, and it needs to stop today. And as sheriff, I am fully intent on working the drug houses and working with the community to close the doors down to these drug houses. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead. I've got about 3 more questions. Hopefully I got to not everyone's question, but at least some part of your question in another form of a question. This is a question dealing with illegal dumping. And the question is, and I believe we're at Mr. Momsen, or we're at Mr. Momsen.
Yeah,
we'll take Mr.
it's been a
Momsen.
while since I got
How
that.
do you intend to work with us or the community on illegal dumping of trash in the county? Illegal dumping.
When there's illegal dumping, that we need to know about it. You need to report it to the sheriff's office. If there are identifiable documents in that trash dump, we'll go trace that down. We'll go look for the people that are on those documents. A lot of times it ends up being a landlord, a mortgage company that did a foreclosure. They paid somebody to clean that property out. And sometimes it's just a citizen that went out there. The city dump was closed. They go into the county and they dump it right there. And sometimes there are issues where there are tree limbs or wood or documents that can't be traced back to anybody. Whatever the case is, the cleanup of it, we partner with the county commissioner's office. They send their work crew out there. They clean up those messes. So our dispatchers will communicate, talk to them, and report the trash dumping. They will come there and take care of that. If we can find the responsible party, we issue fines for that. There's an instance where I held a mortgage cleanup company, a preservation company, responsible. I actually had them refund the county commissioner's office for the man hours they put in for cleaning that up. We billed them for the equipment, the backhoes and things that they took out, and the trailers and all the equipment that was involved to clean it up. We billed that to that mortgage preservation company, and they paid the county commissioners. They sent them a check for that damage. Not all of them can be solved like that, but if we don't take the time and the effort to work those cases like that, we're not going to make a difference. So we have to be able to go out and take those reports, communicate with the county commissioner's office, let them know the mess is there, and get it cleaned up. There is a second avenue to that. There is a grant that allows of environmental deputies they help them purchase trucks and equipment. Logan County has a guy right now. He has his own Facebook page. I've worked with him. I've recovered stolen property because he had trail cams and he had the equipment all funded by a grant, and his position is by grant that allowed him to have all of this cleanup crew. That's what he focuses on. I would love to see that. I know Sheriff Helm actually had us reviewing that grant, and I just didn't meet our department. We weren't in a position where we were ready to chase that grant. But I think now, after the reports and the feedback that we've got and the questions that we've been asked as citizens, as candidates for sheriff, that's definitely So I am going to be on the lookout. If I'm elected sheriff for that grant, I will partner with Don Hudgens from County and say, hey, hook me up with that information because we need that. It is a problem here in Garfield County. But the most important thing is let us know. If you see people, tag numbers, get tag numbers, vehicle descriptions, shoot a message to the sheriff's office Facebook. It can aid in our investigation days later whenever we go take that report. A trash dumping investigation is no different than any other investigation through our department, and they need to be investigated thoroughly.
Thank you. Mr. Helm?
Yeah, that's a very good question. This is something we battle. I've battled this through my whole career. I've chased people down. I've been to where the old lady hired some kids to haul their limbs and trash off, and then I've chased it all back around to her. She let me know who actually did it. Just today, I saw something on Facebook where somebody was throwing out some tires, and the person pulls up right behind and starts writing down tag number. You know, if they're out in the county, you don't know who they are, you've never seen that vehicle in your area, call us. We'd love to chase it down. That is something that there's not a deputy one that likes it. It's wrong, and it's no different than any other crime. We will investigate it to the full extent. So let us know what you see. I've had people cross right in front of me, and I followed them halfway across the county to end up right back in Enid because they didn't make it to the dump because they saw me back there. It's happened.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Ring?
The trash dumping throughout Garfield County is a big issue. I fully intend, as I spoke about earlier, implementing an environmental deputy in the Garfield County Sheriff's Office. As Mr. Momsen stated, there are some grants out there to help provide services and provide equipment for this environmental deputy. But I'm going to take it just one step back. We can have an environmental deputy today with the personnel we have under the same budget that we have. It's not going to cost us any extra dollars to have an environmental deputy. Getting out, working our trash sites, trash dumps. I've been working and talking with the Canadian County Sheriff's Office, who has an environmental deputy. They work with the Environmental Protection Agency service. They work with DEQ. They do and have received grants. They have received a pickup to help transport the environmental deputy. They've also received a dump trailer to help haul trash. And so I really think it's a great program there at Canadian County because they're taking it one step further and they're picking up the trash. They are using community service personnel deemed by the courts who needs to have community service done. They're using these folks to help clean up the trash, and while they're doing that, the environmental deputy is out there with those folks. He's also digging through the trash, and he is finding who owns that trash, because state law says if you find 2 or more identifiable evidence in said trash, the person whose name is on that trash, they're responsible for it. And so we can issue a citation to that person for the trash dump, and which I will do, because the trash out here, the chemicals and the waste is getting into our water supply. Folks, there are people out in rural Garfield County who do not have rural water. They have well water. They drink out of that well water. Their cattle drink out of that well water. Their livestock, their children, their neighbors, because they do not have rural water in those areas. And so when we're out here and we're protecting the environment, we're looking for the people who has dumped this trash. Now, granted, I know that sometimes it may be a whole bunch of timber and we won't find a piece of evidence down there. But if you take Leona Mitchell, for an example, on the weekends when the dump is closed, they leave the dump and they drive right down Leona Mitchell and dump it right in the middle of the road. That's going to be my environmental deputy's job, is to enforce those laws. And if we have to set up a sting operation, if we have to set up game cameras to keep track of those highly dumped areas, then by golly, that's what we're going to do. Because we cannot allow the trash to wash across my property. We can't allow it to wash across your property. And I think everybody in this room can agree with that. So as sheriff, we will enforce trash dumping laws. And that is my plan, is to implement an environmental deputy who will focus on our environment. Folks, I want to keep Garfield County clean, green and clean. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, we have just 2 more questions. This question here is a 2-part question. It is a very good and valid question. The question is, are the deputies prepared to deal with citizens who may have mental illnesses, sicknesses such as diabetes, narcolepsy, Tourette's? Is there any training? What training, if they are not trained, what training would you do if you were a sheriff? What kind of training would you do to help sheriff's department or deputies to deal with these types of issues that we have a lot in this county? I believe we start with Mr. Helm. I'm sorry about that, Mr. Helm.
That's fine. Just making sure. Right now, the state's mandating that we do the 25% of your manpower should be criminal or
Mental illness.
CIT trained, so crisis intervention training, and we're above that. We're going to keep going. I'd like to have every deputy that's on the street to be trained that way, but there's going to be a big push, and it's going to be hard to get in there, but we will get it done. To cover everything, a lot of that's going to take specialized training. It's going to take common sense for these guys to realize and look and see what they have, and this isn't right. Check into it some more, do some background, find out there's family that can clear the situation, and let them know what's going on. It's a hard one. I've had everything from Alzheimer's to epileptic. Just driving in the middle of the road, just stopped. So you have to look at it, you have to assess it. Are they drunk? Well, you smell odor of marijuana, you don't. If they're diabetic, you'll smell the sweet smell. It takes time to learn this, and it does take the training to do this. So I plan on continuing the CIT training and the specialized training as we go through, because mental health is a huge thing to me. We've lived with it with my family, so it is important to me to go and have the guys learn this, but it's going to take a little time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rink.
Yes. So in my career, I've been a volunteer fireman for 15 years and law enforcement for 12 and a half. Now, as a law enforcement officer, we are required to go through CPR and first aid training. As a fireman, I've gone through EMT and first responder training, which I feel, and I would like to see all of our deputies have gone through first responder training, because that brings a lot of education and awareness to everyone on the medical side. You may have somebody driving down the road who may appear intoxicated, but yet they may be a diabetic. And so you have to sort through those issues, and you may need to take them to the hospital or call an ambulance to come and assist them, because this happened. It's happened to all of us, so having the training and the knowledge, firsthand experience for every employee out there, I believe that is a must. The crisis intervention training, currently, I apologize, I do not know what employees are trained or not, but I believe everybody should go through the training, all employees. That is our job, is to protect the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Momsen.
The answer to that question is no. All the deputies are not trained.
Good
The
answer.
majority of us are not trained to deal with medical problems. We rely on the rural fire departments, the ambulance services to recognize that. So that answer is no, we are not. We can do better, and we must do better for the taxpayers. So I will make it a priority, whether I'm sheriff or not, as an employee there. I will reach out. I know people in those fields. I know people that can get us connected to those trainings. I know people who specialize. They work for agencies that do that, and I'm going to reach out to them just as an employee standpoint, to give to him that he's in charge right now so he can let us be better. We have to be better for the public, and I'm glad somebody asked that question, because that's a
Yes.
very valid point, because we don't think of
Yes.
those medical issues. When it comes to criminal side of traffic stop and there's no alcohol involved, then you do that. But oftentimes they don't come. Answer is no or not, and that's a challenge. So
Yeah.
I noted that here, and I'm going to make sure that's a priority because we do need to get us connected to those resources. It would be great if we could all get EMT training, but you're going to run into funding and things like that. But there are people that work for nonprofit agencies and places around town that can get us connected to those, and also mental health to show us how to deal with autistic people, to see the signs and symptoms of that, schizophrenia and things like that. The resources are there. I'm going to step out and I'm going to take that as a challenge and get us connected with those.
Wonderful. And that's great. We need transparency to answer the question saying, no, we don't have that training.
Absolutely.
That's transparency. That's great. I have a 35-year-old son that is mentally retarded, and every now and then he'll get up and just leave the house and walk out. The Enid Police Department know my name. They know his name. They call me directly, say, Mr. Robinson, we have your son. It's just great that they're trained in handling those situations. It could go sideways if they weren't trained, but that was just a great question. I have another answer that we have. Another question that I'm going to go ahead and ask before we get to the last question. It is, what can we, and we'll start this with Mr. Rink.
I'm sorry, Jody, was you wanting to answer that?
He already did.
You
He
did?
started-
I'm
he
sorry.
started it off.
I'm sorry. I've got lost here.
Moderator.
Thank you.
So this question here is what can you do to prevent officers, and this does happen, officers, employees of the Sheriff's Department from using their position for personal grudges? Mr. Rink.
One more time. Say that again.
What can you do to prevent officers or employees to use their position as to take care of personal grudges?
Correct. Right. It starts at the top. I'm not going to allow my employees to use their position on personal grudges. It's unethical. It's immoral. Or simply, I'm not going to allow it. And if that does happen, I want the citizens to come to your sheriff, and I want you to come and talk to me about the issues. I will put it to a halt. So,
Thank you so much, Mr. Momsen.
I'll echo what Corey Rinka said. It's immoral. It's not right. It will not be allowed. It will not be tolerated. If I am elected sheriff, if you feel like that has been done to you or you see it going on, we need to know about it. The only way we can take charge and change that is if we know about it. There are a lot of times things get reported to our agency, and especially if you're like me and been around Enid, grew up here your whole life. A lot of times when things go wrong or people break the law and ultimately they get arrested for something, that's the first thing they say is there's a grudge or there's a bias or you're doing this on purpose. Report that. That's me. Report that. Yeah. Let my agency look into that because I can assure you that I'm doing everything I should be doing and legally what I should be doing. So report that. That's the only way that we can take charge. But there will be a zero tolerance. I will not allow it. And if we don't know about it, we can't make a change or take charge.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Yeah,
Hamlin.
I'm going to have to agree. It's not tolerated whatsoever.
Yes.
So you do have to tell us about what's going on so we know.
It's one of those issues, if you don't tell them, they don't know.
Exactly.
So you have to report this. This is the last question, and we're going to start with Mr. Momsen. And this question is going to lead us into you giving your final response or your final remarks. And this question is, what do you feel will be your most valuable asset to help you if you are elected sheriff, Mr. Momsen? Your most valuable asset.
My drive, my willingness to make a difference is my most valuable asset. Anyone that knows me and has been around me for even a short amount of time knows that I'm the guy that will get it done. If someone has been taken advantage of, something has been done to you wrong, I am the guy that will stand up and I will take it for you. I will fight for you. I'm a big guy. I've got some broad shoulders. I will carry a lot of weight. If there is some unjust out there, I am that guy. I am a wave maker. I was made special. I was made unique. I will be that guy that will go against every single grain and every sense of normalcy that people think is normal and stand up for the right. I will stand alone if I have to. I will take that charge. And anyone who knows me knows that that's how I conduct business, and they know that's how I carry and present my life.
Thank you so much.
me to
Thank
go
you
with
so
closing?
much.
Okay.
Yes, you
Okay.
may. Absolutely.
In closing, I would like to tell you all that for the last 12 years, I have been dedicated and I serve the public passionately. My job is my life. I love this job with everything I am as a human. I believe that I was here to make a difference. There was different jobs I did as an adult, but this is what I was made to do. And I'm made to do more than just the lawful duties of a sheriff. There are more things that I'm here to do with this job. I've been watching the public. I've been watching the posts on Facebook. We have a dispatcher in this room last night on social media. She posted that a lady was talking about not getting a phone call from the sheriff. She posted, it must have been a fill-in. Someone's not doing their job. That saddens my heart. As a 12-year employee of the Sheriff's Department, that saddens my heart that our dispatcher admitted someone's not doing their job. That means someone is in the 911 communication dispatch center, and they're not equipped to do the duties. They've been turned loose on their own. And our own dispatcher said, someone's not doing their job. That makes me sad. We've done an injustice and an inservice to the citizens. I see comments on our social media. Go read the reviews. People are saying they call in for help, and the dispatchers are telling them, we're busy right now, you're going to have to wait. That should happen. Those things make me sad because the citizens deserve more. We need to be accountable. We need to know that we are public servants. We're there to provide those services. When our own employees are admitting that wrongdoing is going on and says someone's not doing their job, that should be a clear sign. Ding, 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 change needs to occur. When the employees say that, change needs to occur. I will bring that change. I know my job. I have the experience. I am dedicated. There's not a person in this room that will stand up, and I challenge anybody right now that says Daryl Momsen does not have the ability to do their job. You'll hear 15 people in this room that'll tell you that they have personality issues with me. I might be rude. I might be crude. I might be a lot of things. But they won't stand up and say Daryl Momsen cannot and has not and will not do his job, because I will do my job. I've done it for 12 years, and I will do it to the best of my ability. I don't care what somebody thinks about me. I don't care if they like me. I don't care if they judge my past relationships. I don't care of any of that issues. My job is primary, my responsibility, and that's what I care for. I'm telling you, folks, the change needs to come. You've heard the people talk. You've seen the post. When the employees say themselves someone's not doing their job, that's not right. Those 911 call takers, those dispatch, the people answering the phone, those are the frontline servicemen. Those are the true first responders, because when you need help, when someone's breaking into your house, when someone is calling for assistance, those people are the ones that take your call the first time. Do you really want someone on the other line that is a felon that isn't doing their job? I take great pride in being a dispatcher. I'm certified and can go in there and run that center right now. I take great pride in that. I can teach somebody to do that. I can teach somebody to be a patrolman. I can teach someone to be an evidence officer. I can teach someone to be an investigator. I can teach someone to be a transport deputy. I have the experience. I'm here to serve for you folks. I give you my word that if I'm elected as sheriff, I will serve you aggressively and diligently. I will fight for the people and be your voice. Let me serve you on June 30th.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Momsen. We're ready for you. You want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's go ahead. This is to Mr. Helm. What do you feel would be your most valuable asset to help you if you were elected sheriff or re-elected sheriff? Your most valuable asset?
That's a good one. My compassion. I make sure that my deputies treat everybody with compassion. If I find out different, we have a counseling and we fix that. My compassion goes to my deputies, it goes to the citizens. The other part would probably be the way I network. If I don't know something, I find out. I work with commissioners very well. I work with other sheriffs very well. And also the Oklahoma Sheriff Association, I've got a good rapport with them. I've got the ways to make the research, find out, and get the answers I need. That's what helps me get through networking with Lanita and several other organizations. Got to have it. That helps me to understand everything else.
Thank you so much, Mr. Helm. Mr. Rink?
Yes, my most valuable asset, if elected sheriff, I believe is going to be my personality. I'm very personable. I'm dedicated. I'm transparent. I want to work with the citizens. I want the citizens to know what's going on throughout Garfield County. And that falls back to being dedicated to the job, being dedicated to the people, and the people that we all love, your friends, your neighbors. You know, I've been in law enforcement for 12 and a half years. I started off as the police chief for the town of Covington. I've also been on the fire department, served as fire chief. I'm both certified in police and fire. I've managed budgets. I've managed personnel. I'm the only candidate standing up here before you today who is an advanced certified law enforcement officer. With my fire experience and my police experience combined, I have over 3,000 hours of training and knowledge. As from the fire service to some emergency management, first aid, and law enforcement. I'm an instructor. I hold classes. I teach defensive tactics. I'm a certified defensive tactics instructor through the state of Oklahoma. We host some very good classes. I'm also a tactical medical instructor. I want to bring that to Garfield County. I want our employees knowing that we can, for one, save our own life, but save every citizen out there. I feel that I can bring my knowledge and my experience to the sheriff's office. I've worked for the Noble County Sheriff's Office the last 3 years. In my career, I've worked homicides, child sex crimes, larcenies, burglaries, internet sex crimes. I can bring my knowledge and my education right here to Garfield County, Oklahoma, to help make this a better place for all of us to live. I've worked in dispatch. I know what our dispatchers need to be doing. And I'm going to make sure that our dispatchers are trained. I'm going to work with the jail administrator and make sure that our jail employees are trained. I'm going to make sure that as sheriff, the health and safety of the inmates is a priority. That has been a big issue in the past. And folks, I'm here to tell you, my name is Corey Rink, and I am running for Garfield County Sheriff. I humbly ask for your support on June 30th. I'm running for my family and yours. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mr. Helm, would you like to make I don't know if you want to make a closing remark. If you would, you're welcome to do that.
Okay, I appreciate it. I started as a jailer, and I've worked my way up. I've been doing this for almost, as far as budgets and stuff, I've been going on for, this will be my 3rd year. I have the track record to prove that I can do this job and I can do it successfully. Am I perfect? No, I am not perfect. I learn every day and every night. I get phone calls all night, I get phone calls all day. But I have that experience, I have that training. I'm the only one that's done the FBI leadership training, which is over 120 hours. In specialized training for the position. I've done the sheriff's school, 2 weeks of the sheriff's school already. I know the budgets, I know all that. And my training goes on and on. I'm not here to tell you anything you probably don't know. I'm here to ask for your vote. I sincerely ask for your vote June 30th so I can keep rebuilding the sheriff's office, keep improving the jail in the future. I am the sheriff for the people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Candidates, matter of fact, let's give them a hand. They did a wonderful job for coming out tonight. We thank you guys so very much. You have certainly given us some great information and showed that no matter which way we go, I believe we're going to have a great sheriff of Garfield County. No matter which way this goes, all 3 of you guys, I believe is going to make a great sheriff. So we can't lose here in Garfield County. So thank you so much. We're going to ask John Gray, I believe he has a closing remark for us.
August 8th. I have to say this 2 more times. August 8th, August 8th. Scientists say after a person hears something for 3 times, it gets stuck in their brain and they can't forget. I work for Youth and Family Services, and I am the director for the Coach a Kid Mentoring Program. On August 8th, from 3 to 9 p.m., we are going to have the first ever motorcycle show. So if you have a bike and you want to show it off, on, show it off. It's going to be at Buffalo Wild Wings, again, August 8th from 3 to 9. If you have any questions, you can reach me at Youth and Family Services. Thank you.
I just want to thank everyone for coming in tonight. Daryl Momsen, Corey Rink, and Jody Helm. It was a pleasure to hear your views and the way you want to take us forward for Garfield County. I appreciate all of the candidates. Let's give them one last round of applause. Very excellent, very excellent. I just wanted to just say just a couple of things, and I might have missed part of the posse part, the posse, the citizen armed. That kind of scared me because I began to think of Trayvon Martin, 17 years old, February 26, 2012, killed by George Zimmerman. So, you know, that part is kind of scary when we have a lot of armed people taking the law into their own hand. If they go to the classes that these gentlemen told us about, the academies, that is awesome. Another thing I was thinking about, and I mentioned it in the city council meeting on last Tuesday, is how important health care is for Oklahomans, not only Oklahomans, but the United States. But we are coming up on this election on June 30th. And I began to think about health care, and I had mentioned about my brother going to sleep in the car because when I saw Rayshard Brooks killed because he couldn't wake up, it made me think about my baby brother who, because we did not have health care growing up, we did not know he was type 1 diabetic. He went to work at AT&T offices in Denver, Colorado, and went to lunch, never came back. He was in the car, sleep. When I say sleep, it was a diabetic coma that no one would have ever imagined. And I was thinking, what if someone would have called 911? And Monson talked about being trained to be a 911 operator. And what if someone would have called and said, there's a black man in the car, and it appears that he's asleep, not knowing that he was in a diabetic coma. But thanks be to God, someone came at the end of the day because he didn't come home. He was still in the car after 6 p.m., and we were worried. What if he would have died that day because someone, you know, did not have the correct training to be an officer of the law that was called to protect and serve? So I am a major component for healthcare being a right and not a privilege. So this may be out of order, but I'm asking you, vote yes for 802. And I wanted to close with, I can't, you can't, but we can together make a difference.
Thank you. We're going to get ready to close. We thanked the candidates, and we do appreciate you, but we really need to thank the citizens of Garfield County. You guys posed some amazing questions. I mean, just some of the best questions I've seen, and you guys answered them wonderfully. So we thank you guys for coming. If you don't mind, I would like to close with a prayer, if you don't mind. May we all just bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, oh Father God. We thank you for the candidates that are running for Garfield County Sheriff, God. We ask that you would lead this county, Garfield County, to the right person, the right man for the job, God. And when you select that man through us, we ask that you'd watch over him and protect him and give him wisdom and knowledge. Not only him, but all of his staff, his deputy, his officers, all of them, oh Father God. Give them wisdom and knowledge and help them to be communicable people that will work with the citizens here in Garfield County and help us to appreciate what the police department's value is, what the sheriff's department's value is. Help us to be appreciative of those men that are protecting our lives, and we thank you for them. God, we thank you for this group that are gathered here today. We thank you for the NAACP, oh Father God, for putting this together. And God, we will give you praise and glory. It's in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you guys again. Thank you guys.
Thank you.